Global Reincarnation, Becoming a God with My Unlimited Revive. Chapter 451, 1000 Skills. According to his previous reincarnation process, Li Xian's thoughts could occasionally affect his reincarnation. Thus, every time he reincarnated, he would try his best to think of repairing the spatial rift or sealing the spatial rift. Ding! You have died, and are now resurrecting. Ding! You have died, and are now resurrecting. The crazy resurrection began. Relying on his powerful saint-rank soul, Li Xian did not care about anything else and reincarnated 1,000 times. Basically, after being resurrected, he left his body and continued to reincarnate. It took him a full 10 days before he was done. The central area of the summoned beast world, District 10. Li Xian stood quietly in the forest. His burning lava body was exuding a scorching temperature. This time, he had reincarnated into a lava golem. It was also a guardian race that lived in District 10. Its goal was to protect the summoned beasts world. This race's strength was tyrannical. An adult lava golem already had the strength of a gold rank. It could be said that the lava race was worthy of being a guardian race. However, at the moment, Li Xian looked at the spires outside the forest. The scene of the battle that kept on roaring was very surprising to him. It was because a group of demon-like ox-hoofed creatures with wings was madly fighting against the lava race. The battle was very fierce. Neither side retreated. Instead, they were madly fighting in the midst of blood and flames. Li Xian clearly saw a 3-meter-tall lava golem crazily waving its big fist and hammering a 2-legged demon. It held the demon and crazily smashed it to the ground, causing the demon to cry out in pain. However, there were too many demons. From time to time, demons would descend from the sky and join the battle. Looking up, in the sky, there was a spatial vortex that was flashing with lightning. It was constantly rotating in the air, emitting an indescribable aura. This was a temporary spatial vortex that was forcefully created by a super powerhouse. The strongest one could pass through was a gold rank powerhouse, and after a period of time, it would be closed. After these demons charged in from the spatial vortex, some went to battle, while others brought strange things with them. Tools, materials, black rune stones, and spatial stones. These things were obviously prepared to create a permanent spatial rift. These abyss devils want to create a permanent spatial rift? They're really annoying. Even the summoned beasts world has been invaded by the abyss. We can't let them succeed. If they kill all the creatures in the summoned beasts world, I won't even be able to find a corpse even if I want to reincarnate. Li Xian twisted his neck and walked out of the forest step by step towards the battle point, the Minaret Mountain. Boom! Troublesome lava golems, you're just seeking your own death. You only have more than 1,000 people, and we have a total of 100,000 people. You'll definitely die, ha ha ha. An unpleasant voice came from mid-air. A majestic abyss devil held a skull, and its voice was distorted as it roared, exuding a tyrannical aura. This voice was very strange, as if 1,000 people were speaking at the same time. It was strange and ear-piercing. This abyss devil was the vanguard of this invasion, the commander of the skeleton demons. Kill all these lava golems. Kill. Along with the strange sound of recombination, a large number of demons rushed out from the spatial vortex, roaring as they charged toward the lava golems. Damn it, everyone, unite together, quick! The lava golem's leader hurriedly urged, waving his large fist anxiously as he fought with more than 10 demons, killing until the sky was dark and the earth was dark. Facing an enemy that was 100 times stronger than their own side, the lava golems suffered more and more casualties, gradually showing signs of being unable to hold on, and signs of failure became more and more obvious. The lava golems saw this scene and fought even more frantically, trying to find hope of victory. Unfortunately, there were too many enemies. Faced with a gold rank abyss devils, the lava golems could not fight 1 against 100. They could only fight in despair while retreating. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect the summoned beast's world to be so weak. Previously, the leader was still worried about the terror of the summoned beast's world. Now, it seems that it's just a trash world. Ha ha ha. The skeleton devil commander laughed maniacally. It flapped its bat wings and looked down at the land, looking down at all the lava golems. At this moment, a steel mantis suddenly appeared in midair, appearing in front of the spatial rift, and then emitting a white light. Rumble! A huge explosion suddenly appeared, and a powerful shockwave reverberated between heaven and earth, shaking large areas. The people who were fighting could not help but look in the direction of the spatial vortex and the location of the explosion. In the sky, the dense explosion gradually dissipated. The spatial vortex within the lightning began to crack and collapse bit by bit under the terrifying explosion. When the skeleton devil commander saw this scene, his pupils constricted as he roared, "Damn it, the spatial vortex is about to collapse, damn it!" Rumble! Another loud sound was heard. The spatial vortex finally collapsed. Under the incredulous gazes of the demons, it turned into nothingness. "Who is it? Who is it?" The skeleton devil commander roared angrily. His tyrannical eyes swept across the surroundings. Very quickly, he saw Li Xian slowly walking over from the distant forest. "It's you. It must be you. Kill him." Although he was not sure what was going on, the skeleton devil commander still gave the order without hesitation, commanding the demons to charge toward Li Xian. As expected, the gap between gold rank and saint rank cannot be made up with numbers. Li Xian said indifferently as his right hand suddenly slapped towards the ground. Corrosion domain. A pale green halo suddenly spread out, instantly spreading to the feet of all the abyss devils, enveloping them. In the next second, large pale green hands stretched out from the green halo, binding the demons and pulling them down. Sizzle! Sizzle! A terrifying corrosive power rippled. The abyss devils in the domain were quickly corroded, struggling madly in fear and screams. In the end, the demons in despair, bit by bit, were corroded into nothingness. In the sky, when the skeleton devil saw this scene, its pupils constricted. Its wings flapped rapidly, and it flew into the distance decisively. Its speed was too fast. It seemed to have burned some secret technique, and it flew away directly. With such speed, if it was an ordinary lava golem, it would be impossible to catch up. However, Li Xian did not care at all. Instead, after killing all the abyss devils present, he snapped his fingers into the distance. The lava golems looked at Li Xian gratefully. They did not understand why this companion was so powerful and why he snapped his fingers. Amidst the rock people's confusion, an unbelievable scene appeared. In the sky, between the thick clouds, a huge black hand descended from the sky like a heavenly pillar, bringing with it a terrifying power akin to the might of the heavens. Rumble! Following an earth-shattering explosion, the gigantic black hand that was akin to a calamity smacked the flying skeleton devil commander to death on the spot, shattering him amidst his despair and fear. Chapter 452, Demigod Path. It's settled. Li Xian indifferently swept his gaze across the lava golems and smiled at the lifeless lava golems. In the next second, circles of water ripples appeared behind Li Xian's back and spread out in a regular manner. Li Xian's entire body slowly merged into the water ripples and completely disappeared. On the spot, only a group of confused and shocked lava golems remained. They looked at the demon corpses all over the ground, looked at the giant hands that were slowly dissipating in the sky, and sniffed the thick smell of blood. They were all dumbstruck and shocked beyond words. After a long while, they finally recovered, and all of them were discussing in shock. I didn't expect that old Fei actually had such terrifying power. This is too unbelievable, a lava golem said in shock. We've lived together for so long, yet we didn't know that old Fei was so terrifying. He's too strong. Yet, 100,000 abyss devils were killed by old Fei in a short period of time. The main point is that the giant hand is too terrifying. It's like the arm of a god. There's also a domain. I remember that only saints have a domain. Does that mean that Old Fei is a saint rank powerhouse? Everyone spoke in disbelief. They were all shocked as they recounted the scene just now. It felt like they were dreaming. Everyone was very curious about this clan member called Old Fei. They wanted to know more about him. However, Old Fei was very reclusive. He liked to live alone in the forest, so everyone did not know much about Old Fei. However, everyone looked at the old clan leader at the same time. It was because the old clan leader and Old Fei had a very good relationship. That morning, he even went to visit Old Fei. It's not Old Fei. Old Fei died early in the morning. Before I could remember to bury him, the Abyss Devils invaded. The Lava Golem clan leader said solemnly, his eyes showing a hint of realization as if he had guessed something. Old Fei is already dead? Then who is this? Why is he so powerful? Someone could not help but ask. This saint rank expert should be a powerful existence in the Central District 1 to 3. Old Fit should have been parasitized by this saint rank expert, and saved us at the same time to repay the favor of the parasitism. The leader of the lava golem continued to explain, the flames around his body flickering slightly. District 1 to 3? It's actually like this. When everyone heard this, their expressions changed drastically and none of them dared to continue. District 1 to 3 of the Summoned Beasts world was truly too dangerous. There were many powerful and strange existences hidden within. Sometimes, when everyone mentioned the names of the experts within Districts 1 to 3, they would be watched by those experts, causing unpredictable consequences. There was once such a thing that happened. A gold-rank Cloud Extermination clansman mentioned the strange existence of District 1, causing the Cloud Extermination clansman to collapse on the spot. This collapse could even be contagious. The entire Cloud Extermination race was completely exterminated in half a month's time, disappearing from the Summoned Beasts world forever. At that time, many races had tried to help, but they were unable to stop the contagion. They could only watch as this race perished. It was such a terrifying District 1 to 3, so the Lava Golem race naturally did not dare to provoke it. Now that everyone heard the leader's words, they did not dare to continue, choosing to remain silent. However, they were saved. They were so grateful that they looked in the direction Li Xian had left with a complicated gaze. They wanted to say something, but they did not know what to say. They could only hide their gratitude at the bottom of their hearts. Ashwolf area. Li Xian had returned to his territory. At this time, the Ashwolf area was thriving. More and more outstanding humans had appeared. For example, there were already 13 silver rank humans in the territory. These humans could not compare to Li Xian. However, based on their growth, they could be considered pretty good compared to the ordinary humans in the Qinyu world. Li Xian inspected the territory and saw that more and more other races were seeking refuge in the territory. When he saw the densely packed materials in the auction house, he nodded in satisfaction. Now, I don't lack low-grade materials. The amount of materials provided by the subjects is enough for everyone to consume, but the high-grade materials are still a little lacking. I still need more powerful subjects to join the territory. When the time comes, I won't have to worry about the materials. As Li Xian spoke, he opened his data panel and checked his attributes. Ding! Li Xian, Ashwolf Leader, 1.76 billion honor points. Master, Qinyu, Little Fatty. Physique, Gold rank Lava Golem. Soul, Low-level Saint rank. Domain, Dark domain, Blood-colored Fomain, Poison domain, Lightning domain, Wind domain. Origin, Fire, Water, Wind, Earth, Thunder, Wood, Light, Poison, Ice, Light, Darkness, Space, and other origin control. Skills, Hero's Rule Talent, Reincarnation Pool, Psychokinesis, God's Perspective, Heroic Spirit Transformation, Mantis Puppet, Big Soul Hand, Treasure Seeking, Companion Saint Equipment, Voil Travel, endless growth, self-destruct, ceiling. I'm getting stronger and stronger. Too many skills have caused a qualitative change. Even though I'm a low-level saint rank, I can still kill my peers with a single strike. As for the mid-level saint rank, the high-level saint rank, and the saint rank peak, I'll only know after fighting. As Li Xian spoke, his gaze swept across the attribute panel, looking at one powerful skill after another. I still need to comprehend the light domain, spatial domain, and other large domains. As long as I complete the light domain and spatial domain, I'll be able to fuse all the domains. I'll be able to form a small world and advance to become a demigod. Of course, my soul needs to advance to become a demigod, Li Xian muttered to himself. His eyes were filled with deep anticipation. At his current stage, he could see the future very clearly. He could already feel what he should do next. For example, a demigod was actually a super expert who had a small world. However, a demigod's small world could not contain any living beings. It was a dead small world. If one wanted a demigod's dead small world to contain living beings, one needed to hold one's divine creation and become a god. My path is very smooth. The Ashwolf area can be used as the foundation to become a god. I can integrate into the god country. I also have a portable space. It can play a crucial role. Joy flashed through Li Xian's eyes. After he saw the path ahead clearly, as long as he comprehended the light domain, spatial domain, and his soul reached the required rank, he would be able to condense a small world. He would be able to use the portable space as the foundation and the various domains as the embryonic form. After becoming a demigod, he would be able to transform the dead small world into a true small world. Then, he would be able to hold his divine creation and become a god. However, there was an essential prerequisite for this, which was to comprehend time. The reason why the dead small world could not become a true small world was that it lacked time. I haven't obtained a talent for time yet. Where could this talent be? Li Xian's heart was heavy. He could not help but look in the direction of the summoned beast's world's center. He had some vague guesses about the existence of the center. Perhaps only District 1 to 3 has such tyrannical talent. After I become a demigod, I will definitely explore District 1 to 3. I should be more cautious now. Chapter 453, The Heart of Sealing. Li Xian collected his thoughts and started to purchase all sorts of materials from the auction house to improve his various skills. For example, the sealing skill. This was the only skill that Li Xian had found that could seal the spatial rift. It could not permanently remove the spatial rift, but it wouldn't be a problem to seal it for a few years. These few years would give Li Xian more opportunities to become stronger. With great expectations, Li Xian began to absorb materials to upgrade his sealing skill. Ding! Your sealing skill has been successfully upgraded to intermediate level. Intermediate level. I'll continue to absorb materials and upgrade it. Li Xian did not hesitate and continued to eat materials to upgrade his sealing skill. He already had 1.7 billion honor points. He could buy countless materials and did not care about consumption at all. Therefore, Li Xian absorbed it all at once. Soon, he heard the notification sound again. Ding! Your sealing skill has been successfully upgraded to advanced level. Ding! Your sealing skill has been successfully upgraded to the peak level. It's at the peak level. Unfortunately, I lack the heart of sealing, so I can't upgrade it to transcendent level. Li Xian sighed and thought about where the heart of sealing could be found. He wanted to upgrade his sealing skill to transcendence as soon as possible. However, after thinking about it, Li Xian could not think of where he could find the heart of sealing. He could only release a mission and offer a high reward to attract the people to look for it. In the Ashwolf Territories mission hall in the auction house. In the lively hall, many figures with weapons on their backs were looking for missions. They were preparing to complete the mission and obtain honor points. These human figures were not just humans. There were also the beast-eared race with wagging tails, the winged angel race, the simple and honest black bear race, and the beautiful spirit race. There were roughly a dozen or so races. They were all races that had defected to the Ash Wolf area. This was because Li Xian did not discriminate against other races. These races had a strong sense of belonging to the Ash Wolf area. They wanted to stay here forever. The last time Li Xian had gone to the God's Domain world, the Ash Wolf area had been attacked by the Three-Eyed race. Faced with the tide of the Three-Eyed race, the human reincarnators simply could not stop the enemy. In the end, it was these other races that had made a move. These races were powerful, especially the angel race. They had directly swept away the Three-Eyed race, protecting the Ash Wolf area as well as the humans. This battle made more and more other races see the power of the Ash Wolf area, and they started to seek refuge, forming the current lively scene. At this moment, at the entrance of the mission hall, a figure walked in quietly. On his shoulder was a little black cat. After this figure entered, he silently watched the function of the honor points, as well as the various good items in the auction house, as well as the various missions and rewards. I never thought that there would be such a huge city in the summoned beasts world. It really surprises me. The figure transmitted his voice in a low voice as he looked at the experts in the mission hall with a complicated gaze. That's why I wanted you to take a look more. Don't be stuck in your world. The outside world is too big. For example, the summoned beasts world. This world can be considered one of the super large worlds. To be able to rank 9th on the list of billions of worlds is quite an amazing world. The little black cat also transmitted its voice, describing the vastness of the summoned beasts world. 9th place. This world is actually strong. The figure continued to transmit its voice in shock. Of course. That's why I paid a huge price to send you to the summoned beasts world so that you could grow faster. Ye Fan, you have to work hard, the little black cat warned. Don't worry, Lord Cat. I still have to protect my world. I have to grow as fast as possible, increase my strength, and then go back to protect my world. Ye Fan's face was full of determination. Work hard. To have such a huge territory here, the leader of the Ash Wolf is definitely strong and extraordinary, the little black cat said seriously. Lord Cat, how powerful do you think the leader of this territory is? Ye Fan asked curiously. I don't know either. However, look at the angel race who arranged the mission over there. That's a powerhouse at the gold rank peak. And the angel race here is all gold ranks. I heard that the angel race has a half-saint rank. To be able to make such a powerful angel race willingly manage this territory, the Ash Wolf leader must at least have the strength of a saint rank. He might even have the strength of a demigod, the little black cat explained. A demigod, hey? That's a level that people look up to. I wonder when I'll be able to reach it. Ye Fan sighed. It won't be too late. With your talent and extraordinary temperament, with my help, you'll definitely become a demigod in the future. According to my calculations, you'll only need 500 years to become a demigod, the little black cat said. 500 years? Isn't that too long? Ye Fan smiled bitterly. This is already very fast, okay? This is because, with my help and your identity as the chosen one, you'll be able to become a demigod in 500 years. Otherwise, you'll probably die of old age and won't even become a demigod, the little black cat said disdainfully. I've already left my own world. Is the identity of the chosen one still useful? Ye Fan was puzzled. Of course it's useful. The identity of the chosen one is equivalent to you being blessed. As long as you're not too far away from your world, your luck will be very good and you'll be able to grow faster. The summoned beasts world is a world that connects all the worlds. It has a close connection with your world. Your luck will also be very good here, the little black cat continued to explain. I see. I understand now. I will continue to work hard and become a demigod in 500 years. Ye Fan clenched his fists with determination. He then looked at the mission panel above the mission hall, ready to do some missions to earn honor points. At this moment, the mission panel suddenly flashed with red light. A large red special mission appeared above the panel, flashing with a faint red light. Exchange mission, a heart of sealing can be exchanged for 10 million honor points. A large red font appeared in front of everyone. When everyone saw the 10 million honor points mission, their eyes widened. Oh my god, 10 million honor points! This is the first time I've seen so many honor points for a mission. It's too generous, someone exclaimed. Yeah, I'm afraid this is a mission issued by the leader. Only this leader has the ability to issue such a generous mission. What's the heart of sealing? Why haven't I heard of it before? Someone was puzzled. I don't know. It seems to be some kind of material or something. Everyone looked at the mission above in surprise. They were all very curious about what the heart of sealing was. It was actually so valuable. In the corner, Yefan looked at the mission with great desire. He really wanted to complete this mission and obtain honor points. However, he did not know what the heart of sealing was. At this moment, Yefan noticed that the little black cat's eyes were flashing with light. It seemed like it knew where to find it. Lord Cat, do you know where the heart of sealing is? Yefan hurriedly transmitted his voice. I know. However, that thing is in the 1000th level of the abyss. It is very, very dangerous to obtain this thing in the 1000th level of the abyss. That's because there are already gods in the 1000th level of the abyss. If a saint rank goes in, they will be targeting and killed. With your strength, you won't be able to come back. The little black cat shook its head. Chapter 454, The Bloodstained Azalea City. Sigh, my strength is still too weak. If only I could be a little stronger. Yefan shook his head helplessly. He was very eager to increase his strength. There's no other way. The abyss isn't easy to deal with. Even demigods can only move around in the first 1000 levels of the abyss. In the end, even demigods are finished. Although the sea was very powerful and the 1 to 998 levels of the abyss could not afford to offend him, the 999th level of the abyss was able to fight the Divine Emperor. This meant that demigods could at most reach the 999th level. Without the strength of a god, it was impossible to reach the 1000th level. And with your little strength, going to the 1000 levels of the abyss is like sending yourself to death. If a god wants to kill you, he only needs a glance. The little black cat shook its head helplessly. The abyss is really terrifying. The V is so extraordinary, yet he can only withstand the 999th level of the abyss. What a surprise! Yefan sighed. That's right. Every level of the abyss is a world. When they choose a world to invade, they invade based on their own combat strength. The abyss monsters in levels 1 to 900 are very weak, but the 999th level is much stronger. The minions have the strength of a gold rank. You can't even defeat a small soldier, the little black cat said helplessly. Then what should we do? This is 10 million honor points. We can buy many valuable items. Yefan said unwillingly. I don't know either. The 1000th level of the abyss is too strong. If you go to that world, you're equivalent to the ants that you see in your current world. The minions can crush you to death with a single pinch, not to mention the gods. The little black cat shook its head. Oh? If I think about it from another angle, I'm very weak and inconspicuous. Will the gods ignore me? Will the abyssal creatures ignore me? Will they have the opportunity to let me obtain the heart of sealing? Yefan probed. That's a good idea. If an expert enters the 1000th level of the abyss, they'll definitely attract the attention of the gods. But according to my understanding in the gods' domain world, the more powerful the god, the lazier he is to pay attention to weak existences. Since you are so weak, the gods will automatically filter you. If that's the case, with my assistance, you have a chance of obtaining the heart of sealing. The little black cat carefully analyzed the pros and cons. It felt that the chances were very high. As long as the gods did not interfere, it could bring Ye Fan away at any time and ensure Ye Fan's safety. If that was the case, Ye Fan might really be able to complete this mission and obtain a terrifying amount of honor points. They had just seen that 10 million honor points could buy many good things, including many precious materials, which could greatly increase Ye Fan's strength. There were even many things that could help the little black cat recover quickly. Thinking of this, the little black cat was prepared to give it a try and make a trip to the abyss. After making a decision, the little black cat moved closer to Ye Fan's ear and began to send a voice transmission, analyzing the pros and cons. After some discussion, they came to a plan that they felt was feasible. In the end, they left the Ash Wolf City. On the other side, after Li Xian finished issuing the mission, he began to upgrade his other skills. 1,000 skills required a lot of materials. Li Xian did not lack honor points, so he naturally went on a buying spree. After buying, he fell into a foodie mood. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. After eating for 3 full days, Li Xian finally managed to raise his 1,000 skills. He could finally heave a sigh of relief. Although most of his skills had not reached the transcendent level and had only reached the peak level, his strength had still received a considerable increase. After all, a quantitative change would cause a qualitative change. 1,000 skills was not a small number. When stacked together, the effects were astonishing. The only thing that made Li Xian frown was that most of his skills had not reached the transcendent level. There was nothing he could do. He was severely lacking in high-grade materials. Li Xian could only think of ways in the future. For example, he could head to the God's domain world. There would be more opportunities there. Buzz! The summoning array suddenly lit up in the surroundings. Li Xian, who was in deep thought, was slightly stunned before he answered the call. The origin of the summoning array was the little fatty's world. Moreover, the summoning this time was extremely urgent, as if it had encountered a serious problem. Li Xian did not plan to give up on the little fatty's world, so he naturally teleported over immediately. The main point was that he owed too many favors in that world. These favors had to be repaid, or else it would involve invisible karma. That was something that only high-level people could deal with. Li Xian had only sensed it in his subconscious, so naturally, he had to repay the favor as soon as possible. Li Xian, who responded to the summoning, quickly disappeared into the summoning array. In the little fatty's world, 50,000 miles away from the beast tamer sect, in the dilapidated Azalea city. At this moment, the sounds of killing were shaking the sky. The roars of beasts and wild laughter were deafening. If one listened carefully, one could still hear the cries of women for help and the cries of children. These voices interweaved with the densely packed abyssal creatures inside and outside the city, making the blood-stained Azalea city seem like hell on earth. The city had already collapsed. The city was surrounded by the endless abyssal two-headed hounds, and they broke through the city gates and charged into the city, crazily attacking all the humans they saw. The human soldiers resisted with all their might, but facing the densely packed abyssal two-headed hounds, the human soldiers fell one by one, dying heroically in battle. The battle was rather bitter. The humans were bathed in blood and fighting in despair and weeping. In a corner of a dead end in a residential area, the little fatty brought a few middle-aged women with him as they huddled together. They looked at the approaching abyssal two-headed hounds in despair. These abyssal two-headed hounds were the size of calves. Their bodies were covered in pitch-black scales, and their sharp claws were covered in blood. Barbs could be seen on their necks. They opened their bloody mouths, and the stench of blood permeated the surroundings, causing the air to become foul-smelling. The abyssal two-headed hound's blood-red eyes stared at the little fatty as they approached him step by step. What? What should we do? What should we do? A few middle-aged women looked anxiously at the little fatty. It was obvious that he was the backbone. It's fine. I've already summoned my summoned beast. It's very powerful. It will definitely be able to defeat these abyssal two-headed hounds. Definitely. The little fatty trembled as he spoke. Under the gaze of the abyssal two-headed hounds, he was so frightened that he wet his pants. Really? The middle-aged women were extremely worried. Their summoned beasts had also been summoned not long ago. In the end, they were all killed by the abyssal two-headed hounds. Moreover, most of them were instantly killed. This made their hearts despair. Even after hearing the little fatty's words, they were extremely worried. Buzz! The summoning array suddenly rippled and appeared in front of the little fatty and the others. Along with the appearance of the array, an extremely terrifying power rippled within Azalea City. This aura was too wild and violent, instantly causing the abyssal two-headed hounds that were attacking to stop attacking. At this moment, inside and outside the city, the abyssal two-headed hounds that were like a tidal wave stopped fighting and looked around in shock. Boom! The 5-meter-tall lava golem suddenly appeared and descended like an iron tower. It stepped on the bodies of several abyssal two-headed hounds and trampled them to death. Blood-colored domain. A cold voice suddenly echoed, and a terrifying blood-colored domain suddenly enveloped the entire Azalea City, covering all living creature in it. Chapter 455, A One-Person Army. In an instant, dense blood-red arms grabbed one abyssal two-headed hound after another from the depths of the ground and ruthlessly pulled them into the domain. The blood-colored domain seemed to have turned into a swamp. All the abyssal two-headed hounds that were captured gradually sank into the blood-colored domain and disappeared. They died while screaming miserably. In a short period of time, nearly one-third of the abyssal two-headed hound were captured into the blood-colored domain, causing the precarious Azalea City to finally stabilize. Who is it? How dare you stop my abyssal two-headed hounds? I think you're courting death. A violent voice resounded through the heavens and earth, and an enormous abyssal two-headed hound that was as big as a small mountain suddenly flew into the air, looking down on the earth and the common people like a demonic god. Its body was covered in golden armor, and golden wings appeared behind its back. Its enormous body covered the sky above the Azalea City, making the depressing atmosphere even heavier. This was not the end. The abyssal two-headed hound in the sky was emitting a brutal murderous aura. The strange black fog spread around it, making it even more terrifying. The humans in the Cuckoo City were shocked when they saw this scene. They couldn't help but feel despair. A small half-saint who doesn't even know a domain dares to jump out. Hey? You're courting death. Boom! A deafening sound shook the sky. The mountain-like abyssal two-headed hound exploded and shattered under the attention of hundreds of thousands of people. It directly turned into a bloody mist in the sky. The raindrops formed by blood fell from the sky, and the entire Cuckoo City was covered in bloody rain. The bloody rain covered all the living beings in the city. Many people were drenched, but they did not care. They looked at the sky in shock and at the slender figure in white. Above the city, in midair, Li Xian, who was in his heroic spirit form, stood quietly in the void. His white robe fluttered in the wind, and he looked down at the living beings like a god. At this moment, the humans in the city looked at the sky in shock. They looked at Li Xian, who was like a god as if they were in a dream. Only the little fatty was stunned. He looked at the lava golem on the ground, and his mind seemed to be in a daze as he stood on the spot. In the sky, Li Xian did not pay attention to the shocked humans. Instead, he waved his hand and once again expanded the area of his domain, enveloping all the abyssal two-headed hounds inside and outside the city. The massacre was happening in Azalea City. To humans, the powerful abyssal two-headed hounds army. Just like that, in a short period of time, they were pulled into the blood-colored domain by the blood-colored arms and completely melted. The battle soon came to an end. Facing the saint-rank Li Xian, the abyssal two-headed hound army was wiped clean. Not a single abyssal two-headed hound could survive. All of the abyssal two-headed hound were devoured by the blood-colored domain and turned into the energy of the domain. The calamity of Azalea City ended just like that. Only the dilapidated buildings clearly proved that this place had encountered a great crisis. Whoosh! Among the humans, a silver rank commander covered in blood quickly jumped onto the city wall and bowed respectfully to Li Xian. Greetings, Lord Li Xian. Thank you for your help, my lord. You know me. Li Xian descended from the sky and stood on the city wall, glancing at the other party. Lord Li Xian, I served in the Abyss Fortress in the past and once saw you from afar, the silver rank commander hurriedly explained. Tell me what happened recently? Why are there abyssal two-headed hounds here? Li Xian asked. These abyssal two-headed hounds were not very strong. They should be abyssal creatures from the first 500 levels of the abyss. They could not compare to the 999th levels abyssal giants. However, these abyssal two-headed hounds were still not something this world could face. Since the abyssal two-headed hounds had invaded the human world, they would definitely bring disaster to this world. Sir, the situation is like this. The spatial rift in the Beast Tamer sect has collapsed, and the Abyss army has invaded our world in all directions. The Saint Rank Ancestor led his army to stop them, but they still failed. Only 1/10 of the army was left, and the Saint Rank Ancestor was seriously injured and on the verge of death. Many generals had died in battle. Right now, the remaining human army is led by Lei Wushuan. They are currently fighting the Berserk Lion army in Green Bull Fortress. On our side, we are only facing the weakest of the abyssal two-headed hound army. On the other side, the Berserk Lion army is the true disaster. The human commander hurriedly explained and reported the situation. I understand. I'll leave this place to you. Li Xian left his words and disappeared in the air, leaving the crowd to stare in shock at the place where Li Xian had disappeared. 10,000 miles away, in White Cloud City. This place had also been invaded by the abyssal two-headed hounds. The battle was even more intense, and the abyssal two-headed hound army had already occupied half of the city. Many human warriors, even though they knew that they could not win, still tried their best to stand at the front line and protect their families behind them in despair. Rumble! A pitch-black hand suddenly appeared in the sky and descended like a heavenly pillar. It slammed fiercely at the abyssal two-headed hound army outside the city, causing it to collapse instantly. After doing all this, the pitch-black hand did not stop. Instead, it waved wildly and attacked the abyssal two-headed hounds in the city. However, the buildings in the city affected the performance of the pitch-black hand. It was very likely that humans were hiding in these buildings. The pitch-black hand needed to pay attention to these humans, so it spent more time fighting. This was not a small consumption for the pitch-black hand. However, the pitch-black hand still did not hurt the innocent. Instead, it protected the humans and tried its best to suppress the abyssal two-headed hounds. The Commoner District. The humans who were guarding the final area were shocked when they saw this vast scene. They could not believe what they saw. There was nothing they could do. The pitch-black hand that descended from the sky was too terrifying. It was like the hand of a god, suffocating everyone. Is this god protecting us? Someone in the crowd asked in shock. It must be a god, it must be a god. It's such a terrifying giant hand, so humans definitely can't do it. It must be a god. God, can you help me save my sister? She's trapped in the work area. Please save my sister. A little girl put her palms together and prayed as she looked at the giant hand. 10 miles away from the Beast Tamer sect. Li Xian stood in the air and put his palms together. A powerful aura shot up into the sky. The terrifying power condensed into hundreds of black hands in the sky. Within 100,000 miles, they saved all the cities that were attacked at the same time. However, this was not all of Li Xian's power. A huge black spatial vortex was slowly condensing behind him. The spatial vortex rotated slowly. Each time it rotated, it would expand a little. Each time it expanded, more and more powerful dark creatures would appear. At this moment, the ground beneath Li Xian's feet was already densely packed with an army of darkness that was like a tidal wave. Under Li Xian's enhancements, they took mechanical steps and charged toward the beast tamer sect step by step, killing the abyssal creatures that surged out of the abyssal crack. Chapter 456, Who was helping the humans? This was the real battlefield. As long as Li Xian stopped the invasion of the Abyss army from here, the city behind them would gradually become safer. However, Li Xian would have to bear a huge amount of pressure because the Abyss world was not simple, even if it was not the 999th level of the Abyss. 2 mid-level saint ranks. In the sky, Li Xian's eyes flashed with seriousness. He could feel 2 terrifying auras rapidly approaching him from the beast tamer sect. It was obvious that his attack had attracted the attention of the Abyss experts, and the real battle was about to begin. They're here. In just a few breaths, 2 terrifying figures suddenly stopped 100 meters away from Li Xian, staring at him. One of the 2 figures had a lion's head and a human body. The lion man had a pair of cold claws. The other had a strange eyeball that was the size of a car. A deathly stillness flashed in his eyes from time to time. Human experts? How can there be 2 saint rank experts in this world? No, the power you use is the darkness power. Does the dark world want to encroach on the territory of our abyss? The lion man's gaze was cold. His ferocious aura spread in all directions, causing the surrounding space to flash with black lightning. Encroach? No, you're just tools for me to test my power. Li Xian smiled slightly. His long hair danced in the air, and his white robes fluttered in the wind. His powerful aura shot straight into the clouds. Humans are courting death. The 2 saint-rank abyss powerhouses were furious when they heard this. They immediately mobilized their domain powers and charged toward Li Xian. Boom! The space trembled slightly, and fine cracks filled the air, revealing the pitch-black world within the cracks. These were spatial cracks caused by power. The 2 mid-level saint-rank experts immediately released their domains and mobilized the power of their domains to madly charge toward Li Xian. The 2 sides engaged in a life-and-death battle in the empty white cloud plains. At Green Bull Fortress, Lei Wuxuan held her snow-white neck and leaned against the city gate. Blood dripped down from her fair little hand, dyeing her silver armor red. She could not care less about these things. Instead, she looked at the giant hand in shock, watching it sweep across the abyssal berserk lion army. Such a giant hand is actually helping us. Who is it? What kind of high-level existence is saving the human race? Lei Wuxuan looked at the giant hand with trembling eyes. She was rejoicing that she had survived the disaster. The saint-rank ancestor was heavily injured, 3 generals died in battle, and many commanders were buried. She was the only one left in the entire human army who was still holding on. She was leading the last human army to protect the Green Bull Fortress. Not long ago, they were on the verge of being destroyed by the abyssal berserk lion army. However, at such a desperate moment, the giant hand suddenly appeared and charged into the abyssal berserk lion army, sweeping away all abyssal creatures. In just a short time, the giant hand had completely stabilized the precarious battle line. Seeing the abyssal berserk lion army collapse and their numbers rapidly decline, Lei Wuxuan finally let out a sigh of relief. After letting out a sigh of relief, she collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath after surviving the disaster to recover her strength. Suddenly, she sensed something and looked in the direction of the beast tamer sect. There, 3 terrifying auras were shaking the world, affecting the sky within a radius of 100,000 miles. That scene was like the end of the world, suffocating. A saint-rank battle. This is definitely a saint-rank battle. Could it be the ancestor? No, the ancestor is recuperating in the Abyss Fortress. Right now, he doesn't even have the strength of a black iron rank. How could it be the ancestor? But this fluctuation is even stronger than the one caused by the ancestor's battle. Who could it be? The owner of that giant hand. Lei Wuxuan's small face was filled with shock and curiosity. She did not know who was guarding the human race. It's Li Xian fighting with two abyss saint ranks, and their mid-level saint rank. An old voice came from the lightning blade. It's actually Li Xian. He actually has the power of a saint rank. Wait, the enemy is two mid-level saint ranks? Isn't that Li Xian in great danger? Lei Wuxuan immediately became worried. She clutched her weapon and wanted to go to support. Don't worry, Li Xian will not lose. He took on the enemy alone, and he seems to be at ease. An old voice came from the lightning blade again. How can that be? Even if Li Xian has reached the saint rank, he is at most at the low-level saint rank. How can he be able to do it with ease when facing two mid-level saint ranks? Lei Wuxuan said in surprise. His aura is indeed at the low-level saint rank, but his combat strength is very strong. Wait, my god, look at the sky. The old voice was filled with shock, and even the lightning blade was trembling. The sky. Lei Wuxuan raised her head and looked at the sky with her big eyes. In the blue sky, a strange eyeball the size of a car suddenly appeared from the spatial crack, and then looked back in shock. At this moment, the strange eyeball was covered in blood. It looked very miserable, and its body was covered in injuries. It did not dare to stop, and quickly flew into the distance. However, at the moment when the eyeball flew away, a white figure suddenly appeared in the sky. Then, it clenched its fist and ruthlessly smashed the strange eyeball. Rumble! An earth-shattering loud sound reverberated in the sky. The terrifying flames burned the void for tens of thousands of miles, causing the entire world to feel as if it was the end of the world. The fleeing eyeball exploded on the spot and turned into a bloody mist in the void. There was not even a single scream. This scene, shocked Lei Wuxuan so much that she opened her mouth as if she was in a dream. To think that Li Xian would suddenly display such terrifying strength, blowing up a saint rank. He's too powerful. An old voice came from within the lightning blade, and even his voice was trembling. Suddenly display it. The saint rank ancestor once said that the eyeball saint is extremely difficult to deal with, several times more difficult than a saint rank berserk lion. I didn't expect that such a troublesome eyeball would actually be blown up by Li Xian. And it was such a short period of time. He's too powerful. Lei Wuxuan was extremely shocked. She looked at Li Xian with his bright eyes and was completely stunned on the spot. Wuxuan, quickly look at Li Xian's left hand. He is holding a person. Wait, that is the mid-level saint rank lion man. What? Lei Wuxuan was shocked. She quickly looked at Li Xian's left hand in the sky. Indeed, the lion man that had once severely injured the ancestor was being held by Li Xian. The key point was that the lion man was in a terrible state. A bloody hole had been punched in its heart. The dense smell of blood slowly filled the sky and dyed the sky red. He died just like that. Two mid-level saint rank masters were killed by Li Xian just like that. He's too terrifying. The old voice was filled with awe. Yet, he's actually so powerful. It's really admirable and fascinating. Lei Wuxuan looked at Li Xian in the sky with admiration. She admired and respected this handsome young man from the bottom of her heart. Whoosh! Li Xian disappeared from the sky and left the area. Soon, a terrifying aura rose from the direction of the beast tamer sect. Not good, another abyss saint rank appeared in the spatial rift. This time, it's even stronger. Wait, Li Xian actually rushed over and rushed into the spatial rift. An old voice immediately came out from the lightning blade, causing Lei Wuxuan's heart to tighten. Rushed into the abyss? That place is so dangerous, why would he rush in? Lei Wuxuan hurriedly said. He's protecting this world. His strength is too powerful. If he fights for a long time, it will bring great damage to this world. Therefore, Li Xian would rather risk his life and death to kill his way into the abyss, the old voice continued to explain. Chapter 457, Saint Rank Battle. This. Lei Wuxuan sighed, her eyes filled with worry. She was afraid that something bad would happen to Li Xian and that he would be in danger in the abyss. Lei Wuxuan, I have a bad feeling. I suggest you contact the ancestor in the abyss fortress and think of a way to cure him. Ask him to come over and help. I just sensed an even more terrifying aura from the abyss crack. If Li Xian rushed into the abyss rashly, he might encounter a terrifying life and death crisis. The old voice continued to speak, suggesting Lei Wuxuan to help. All right, I'll write a letter immediately. However, how can I cure the ancestor? I don't have the slightest clue, Lei Wuxuan said worriedly. Go and find the sky-devouring demon and fuse with it. Form a saint rank expert with you as the master, and become the guardian god of the human race. This is your fate, and also the world's greatest investment in you. Once you fuse successfully, you can cure the ancestor and help Li Xian. The old voice was filled with helplessness, because this was a dead end. Regardless of whether Lei Wuxuan and sky-devouring demon succeeded in fusing or failed, the newly formed personality was no longer her, but a new individual. At that time, it could be thought that Lei Wuxuan had already died, leaving behind only the new sky-devouring demon. This. Lei Wuxuan sighed. She opened her mouth to say something, but in the end, she remained silent. She was the chosen one, so she had to shoulder this responsibility. After a deep sigh, Lei Wuxuan resolutely took out a pen and paper and began to write a letter quickly. After she finished writing, she arranged to send a letter to a messenger eagle. She carried the lightning blade on her back and resolutely left this place to search for the sky-devouring demon's figure. The direction she was walking in, for some unknown reason, was actually the direction where the sky-devouring demon was hiding. Inside the abyss crack. After Li Xian passed through the abyss crack, he stood quietly in the void. He was looking down on all living things from God's perspective. At this moment, a strong sense of danger appeared in his heart. Malice from all directions surged into his heart. Whoosh! 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 Dozens of figures flew over from afar. The auras they emitted were all saint rank. Low-level saint rank, mid-level saint rank, high-level saint rank, and even saint rank peak. The only fortunate thing was that they did not have demigods. This was the greatest surprise. Humans actually dared to step into the abyss. You're really courting death. Do you really think that there's no one in the abyss? We're just too powerful. The spatial rift is unable to bear our greater power. Moreover, we're going to attack other worlds. This time, we didn't send more saint rank experts into your world. But since you've come to the abyss, then go and die. The abyss will be your burial ground. Rumble. An earth-shattering explosion shook the heavens and earth. Cracks appeared on the ground, densely packed like a spider web. Dozens of figures emitting terrifying auras rushed over and surrounded Li Xian. They were ready to battle at any moment. In the dark, there were even demons secretly weakening the spatial cracks to prevent Li Xian from escaping through the cracks. Weakening the spatial rift would cause the spatial rift's carrying capacity to decrease, causing the experts to be unable to pass through. The goal was to kill Li Xian in the abyss. What a powerful lineup! 32 Abyss Saint rank experts include 3 Saint rank peak experts and the rest are mostly high-level Saint rank experts and mid-level Saint rank experts. A strong sense of danger appeared in Li Xian's heart. He was not afraid. Instead, he smiled and swept his gaze across the Saint-level experts with a hint of madness. Since he dared to charge into the abyss, he had no intention of returning alive. At the very most, he could just die here. After all, he would be reincarnated into the summoned beast's world, so he had nothing to fear. Thinking of this, a streamlined silver armor appeared around Li Xian's body, enveloping him completely. That was the accompanying saint equipment, causing him to fall into the best battle posture. Kill him! An explosive roar resounded through the world. 2 huge arms suddenly emerged from the space and suddenly appeared in the direction where Li Xian was standing, directly appearing in Li Xian's abdomen. However, to everyone's surprise, Li Xian was only an afterimage. The real Li Xian had already appeared 1,000 meters away. Today, I, Li Xian, will be known throughout the abyss. I will let all of you know that as long as I, Li Xian, am alive, mankind will not be destroyed. Boom! A terrifying shockwave swept across the area, and domain energies swiftly spread out, enveloping the entire area as well as the abyss. Domain. The abyss saint rank experts were not willing to be outdone either. One by one, they released their domains, and in a bloodthirsty frenzy, they charged toward Li Xian. In an instant, the earth-shattering battle began, and a world-shaking battle swept through the abyss. Facing dozens of saint rank experts, even though Li Xian had many skills, in the home ground of the abyss, and under the attacks of so many enemies, he quickly fell into a state of injury. He had been hit by an unknown force more than once, and his heart was bleeding. However, it had also brought a lot of trouble to his enemies. Kill. Cut off his head. A strange force suddenly appeared and directly acted on Li Xian's neck. A bloody line instantly appeared, and Li Xian's head fell to the ground, splitting into two. He, I killed another human saint rank. Awesome, awesome. An unpleasant hoarse voice sounded from the darkness. A single-horned old woman with a walking stick appeared from the darkness. She slowly walked to Li Xian's side and picked up the head on the ground. This corpse will become my experimental material. You guys don't have any objections, right? The single-horned old woman coldly looked at the surrounding saint rank experts. No, we don't have any objections. The saint rank experts hurriedly shook their heads and looked at the single-horned old woman with fear. He, that's more like it. Otherwise, my walking stick will curse once more. The single-horned old woman laughed. Just as she was about to do something, she suddenly discovered that her heart had been pierced through. Spit. Fresh blood flowed. The single-horned old woman's arm had been cut off, and her walking stick had been crushed by a single hand. Only the single-horned old woman's body remained unmoving. How is this possible? Aren't you dead? The single-horned old woman said in a daze. I just turned my head around. I can just put it back. There's no need to make a fuss. Li Xian's head floated around his neck as he spoke. He swayed left and right before he reattached it. Such a scene and such a terrifying feeling caused the saint rank experts in the abyss to feel a chill run down their spines. Boom! The horned old granny's head was shattered. Li Xian had killed her with a single punch and even shattered her corpse. The powerful saint rank peak expert had died here just like that. Single-horned old granny. The saint-level experts in the abyss were furious when they saw this scene. They charged at Li Xian furiously and roared. You're finished. You killed the single-horned old granny. She comes from a demigod family on the 1000th floor. You'll never be able to withstand the wrath of a demigod. Die. Rumble. The battle continued. The power of the many abyss saint rank experts was fully unleashed. They surrounded and attacked crazily, vowing to kill Li Xian to this point. Li Xian was not willing to be outdone by the savage enemies either. He fought with them in the most violent form and started a century-long battle of life and death. In the battle, the first peak of the abyss, the Cursed Peak, was flattened. The land of 100,000 miles had become a barren pit. Countless abyssal creatures were affected and buried in the aftermath of the battle, causing huge casualties to the abyss. However, this was only the beginning. Li Xian's troublesome nature had truly made the abyss saint rank experts experience that almost undying ability. It was simply too abnormal, causing the abyss saint rank experts to be furious again and again. However, the battle on this side had attracted the attention of even more experts. In the vast and boundless abyss, more abyss saint rank experts had come to provide assistance. Even the abyss saint rank experts who were attacking other worlds had stopped their attacks and turned to intercept and kill Li Xian. They called out to their friends and vowed to kill Li Xian here and eliminate the huge trouble that Li Xian was in. In the little fatty's world. In the safe house where the soul lamps was located in the abyss fortress that was covered with array formations. A few guards who were not weak were quietly guarding the soul lamps here and reporting the situation at any time. The soul lamps here were left behind by many human experts. Saint rank ancestors, great generals, commanders, various large sects, and so on. Many experts from different factions had left behind their soul lamps. Even Li Xian had left behind his soul lamp. There was only one use for a soul lamp. When the expert who left the soul lamp was in danger, the soul lamp would shake. If they died, the soul lamp would be extinguished. Chapter 458, Gradually Dimming Soul Lamps. A while ago, many soul lamps had been extinguished here. All of them had been extinguished during the battle with the abyss. At that time, the soul lamps of the saint rank ancestor had been shaking frequently. Although it had not been extinguished yet, the soul lamp had become 10 times dimmer. These guards had originally been staring at the soul lamps, wondering which expert would die that day. It was because too many people had died in the past few days, they were already numb to it. They only reported the situation over and over again, reporting bad news one after another, causing the atmosphere here to become even more oppressive. However, for some unknown reason, the soul lamps that had been continuously extinguished suddenly stopped, no longer extinguished. This caused everyone to be puzzled, not understanding what had happened. Captain, isn't the abyss attacking humans on a large scale? Why are the soul lamps suddenly not extinguishing? Could it be that the abyss invasion has stopped? A guard called Old Six asked. Impossible. As long as there's an opportunity, the abyss will definitely invade crazily, killing all humans. Now that the saint rank ancestor is heavily injured, there's no one who can stop the abyss. At this moment, it was a great opportunity for the abyss to attack. They definitely won't stop the invasion. There must be a major incident that we don't know about, the captain said solemnly. Something big? Are you saying that a super powerhouse appeared and stopped the abyss invasion? Old Six guessed. It's possible. Let's first report this matter to the higher UPS. The higher UPS will definitely pay attention to it. We just need to keep an eye on the soul lamps here. After the captain finished speaking, he hurriedly sent Sixth Brother to report the situation here. Not long after, Old Six hurriedly ran back. Behind him was a group of high-ranking military officials, including the injured saint rank ancestor. Lord Ancestor, generals, why are you here? The captain hurriedly stood up and bowed. Don't ask this for now. Where is Li Xian's soul lamp? Which one is his soul lamp? The saint rank ancestor held his heart and asked weakly. This, here, this brightest soul lamp belongs to Grand Marshal Li Xian. The captain hurriedly pointed to the soul lamp that was placed separately. Phew! Fortunately, the soul lamp is normal. Nothing happened. The saint rank ancestor let out a sigh of relief. The generals around him also let out a sigh of relief. What's the situation? The captain was at a loss. He did not understand what was going on. Captain, it's like this. Old Six pulled the captain to the side and whispered an explanation into his ear. I heard from the adults that the abyss is invading the human world in all directions. The human world has already fallen into a catastrophe. However, at the critical moment, Grand Marshal Li Xian appeared. He single-handedly withstood everything. He killed the abyss army, crushed the saint rank lion man, blew up the mid-level saint rank strange eyeballs, and even rushed into the abyss. Right now, the space crack was filled with all kinds of terrifying auras. According to the detector, these auras had dozens of saint rank powerhouses. In other words, Grand Marshal Li Xian was fighting dozens of saint-level enemies alone in the abyss. It was very, very dangerous. What? Dozens of saint-rank enemies? The captain was scared out of his wits when he heard this. He looked at Old Six in disbelief. It's true. When I went to report the situation, the detector just happened to report back that Grand Marshal Li Xian was madly fighting in the abyss. We don't know what the consequences will be. That's why we came here to observe the situation of Grand Marshal Li Xian's soul lamp, the old man explained again. So that's how it is. No wonder the soul lamp suddenly stopped going out. It turns out that Marshal Li Xian has returned and is even fighting against dozens of saint rank experts. That scene must be very shocking. The captain's heart trembled violently. Although he did not know what the battle scene was like, he knew that Li Xian was definitely in extreme danger. Thinking of this, the captain hurriedly turned his head to look at Li Xian's soul lamp. He stared at the candle-like flame, worried that it would go out. Whoosh! As if a gust of wind had blown past, Li Xian's soul lamp suddenly swayed. In an instant, everyone held their breaths as they nervously looked at Li Xian's soul lamp. Their eyes were filled with worry. The old-looking saint-rank ancestor, who did not have much time left, also struggled to stand up as he looked at the soul lamp worriedly. Whish! The soul lamp swayed again and again. Each time, it touched the hearts of everyone. They knew that Li Xian must have encountered an extremely terrifying crisis. Even if they could not see it, they still understood it from the soul lamp. Please don't let anything happen to him. The captain clenched his fists and muttered worriedly. His entire body was trembling. The people at the side were also worried. They really wanted to replace Li Xian and help him. However, they knew that they were completely useless in the past. In fact, the aftershocks of the battle could even shock them to death. Whish! The soul lamp swayed once more, swaying even more frequently. It flickered between light and darkness and even dimmed a little. At this moment, everyone's hearts were raised. The saint-rank ancestor could not help but want to drag his heavily injured body to help. Ancestor, don't distract Li Xian. We won't be able to help him if we go over. We'll only distract him. A graceful beauty tried to persuade him. Her name was Huo Linger, and she was the new general from the Seven Stars sect. She was also Li Xian's master in this world, a gold rank expert. However, at her level, she still did not have the qualifications to participate in a saint rank battle. Even if she got closer, she wouldn't be able to. She would only be sending herself to her death. What she could do was stabilize the fort and fight for the last glimmer of hope. Will it only distract him? How could I not know? However, I am really worried about him. He is currently suffering from the attacks of dozens of saint ranks. Moreover, in a place like the Abyss, there might be more and more saint ranks appearing. I am really worried about Li Xian, the saint rank ancestor said in a hoarse voice. We have no other choice. The only thing we can do is to bless him. Huo Linger sighed and continued to look at the soul lamp that was slightly dimmer. Fortunately, although the soul lamp was shaking, it gradually stabilized. Everyone relaxed a little, but they still did not dare to be careless. After all, that was the abyss. Just like that. Everyone watched nervously. From time to time, they would see the soul lamp shaking violently and dimming again and again. In the end, the soul lamp had already dimmed by more than half. That weak little flame made everyone's heart clench to the extreme. After half a day, the little flame did not change again. Instead, it completely stabilized and even gradually became bright. Rumble. A terrifying rumbling sound suddenly appeared in the Abyss Fortress. The source of the sound was shockingly the depths of the Abyss Passage. The people who were paying attention to the soul lamp were shocked and hurriedly sent people to investigate the Abyss Passage. After all, ever since Li Xian had set up the array formations in the Abyss Passage, it had been a long time since there had been any enemies in the Abyss Passage. However, a loud boom came from the Abyssal Passage. Something big must have happened. With worry, Huo Linger led a group of experts and hurriedly arrived at the entrance of the Abyss Passage, wanting to rush into the Abyss Passage to investigate. Chapter 459, Rush through 1 million miles through of the abyss. However, at this moment, just as they were about to enter the abyss passage, a bloody figure with a long spear in his right hand staggered out of the abyss passage. His body was covered in blood, and his entire body was filled with the thick smell of blood. Even his messy hair was covered in blood. On his left hand was the corpse of a demonic dragon, and the corpse of a demonic dragon was exuding the aura of a saint rank peak. Seeing this figure, the pupils of everyone present shrunk, and they all revealed shocked expressions. Li Xian, is that you? They looked at the figure covered in blood, looked at the knife marks on his handsome face, looked at the broken armor, and looked at his long hair. Huo Ling'er was stunned. She looked at Li Xian in disbelief. She never expected that the one who came out was Li Xian. It's Grand Marshal Li Xian. Someone could not help but shout. His voice was full of shock and disbelief. His words attracted more people and also woke Huo Ling'er up. Whoosh! Huo Ling'er's delicate body flashed and suddenly stopped beside Li Xian. Her snow-white little hand held his shoulder and said worriedly, Li Xian, are you all right? You actually came back from this side of the abyss passage. I'm fine. Those bastards from the abyss were worried that I would escape, so they temporarily sealed the Beast Tamer sect's spatial rift, but they underestimated me. Since the Beast Tamer sect is unable to pass through, then I'll kill my way through the abyss's millions of levels. I'll find the passage here in their fear, and then return. Li Xian said proudly, his pitch-black eyes flashing with strong confidence. Even though he was covered in blood, it was still unable to conceal his strong confidence. Kill my way through the abyss. When Huo Ling'er heard this, she looked at Li Xian, who was covered in wounds all over and felt the domineering tone in his words. Her heartbeat slightly sped up, and then she looked at Li Xian in a daze. The people around were also shocked. They could not imagine what kind of intense battle Li Xian had gone through in the abyss. However, just killing someone who had traveled 1,000,000 miles through the abyss was already scary enough. Just thinking about it made one's blood boil. Oh right, the corpse of this saint-rank demonic dragon is very valuable. It is immune to attacks below the saint tier intermediate level. When we return, we will choose the best dragon skin and make a lady's set. I want to gift it to someone. You can use the rest of the scraps as you wish. There should be many more sets of armor that can be made. Li Xian said indifferently. With Huo Ling'er's support, he walked out step by step. Grand Marshal, we'll help you carry it. Someone rushed over to help but was forced back by the power of the demonic dragon's corpse. You can't carry it. Its body contains a gravity domain. You can only carry it after the remaining gravity domain dissipates. No one below the saint rank can carry it now. Li Xian said calmly as he carried the demonic dragon's corpse and walked forward step by step. His words caused everyone present to be slightly stunned before they felt a wave of powerlessness. They had never thought that they would not be able to carry the corpse of the enemy that Li Xian had killed. The key was that those below the saint rank would not be able to carry the corpse of the enemy. With such a comparison, they could already guess how terrifying and extraordinary the enemy was. Is this how terrifying the saint rank is? Even a dead body cannot be carried by those below the saint rank, someone said with a complicated gaze. Yeah, such a high level of power, just thinking about it makes one feel suffocated. It's too powerful. It's indeed powerful. The main point is that such a terrifying saint-rank demonic dragon corpse is already dead and is being carried by Grand Marshal Li Xian. Just how powerful is Grand Marshal Li Xian? This. The surrounding people swallowed their saliva and looked at Li Xian with even more admiration. They all admired Li Xian's strength from the bottom of their hearts. This included Li Xian's world's master, Huo Ling'er. They all looked at Li Xian with admiration and then carefully supported Li Xian as they walked forward. When they arrived at the Grand Marshal's residence, all the high-ranking officials had gathered there, including the saint-rank ancestor. Although his face was pale and abnormally weak, he still stood here resolutely, wanting to see Li Xian return with his own eyes. "You're back." After seeing Li Xian's figure, the saint rank ancestor finally heaved a sigh of relief, his gaze amiable as he said to Li Xian. "MMHM, I'm back." Li Xian nodded, his voice similarly gentle. "It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. Quickly sit down. Are you all right? I've discovered dozens of saint rank auras previously, so don't be so rash in the future," the saint rank ancestor said with concern. He was afraid that something would happen to Li Xian. "It's all right. They won't dare to attack again in the future. There are a total of 62 saint rank auras. I've killed 32 of them. As long as I'm here in the future, they won't dare to take a single step into this world," Li Xian said domineeringly. His face was full of arrogance. After this battle, he truly realized how powerful he was. He was basically invincible against those below the demigod rank. In addition, the 30 saint rank survivors from the abyss were all mid-level saint rank and low-level saint rank. They would not dare to attack anymore. That was why Li Xian spoke so arrogantly and calmed everyone's hearts. He killed 32 saint rank experts? "Oh my god!" a commander in the crowd said in shock. He was scared out of his wits and stared blankly at Li Xian. He had personally witnessed the battle between saint rank experts and clearly knew how terrifying saint rank experts were. However, Li Xian had single-handedly charged into the abyss. Facing the combined attacks of 62 saint rank experts from the abyss, he had actually killed 32 of them. Such a battle record was truly too frightening. It was so frightening that the commander had collapsed onto the ground. He was not the only one. Even the human saint rank ancestor was frightened. He looked at Li Xian in disbelief. Did you really kill 32 of them?" the saint rank ancestor hurriedly asked. "Oh, that's not right. I made a mistake." Li Xian shook his head and said calmly. "Including the 2 who charged into our world, there are a total of 34. Among them, 3 are at the saint rank peak." "What? 34? 3 at saint rank peak? That's too strong. Oh my god! Too strong, too strong. They're at the saint rank, not cabbages. More importantly, there are 3 at the saint rank peak. This is simply unimaginable." The crowd discussed animatedly as they looked at Li Xian in shock. They felt as if their worldview had collapsed. The worldview of the human saint rank ancestor had also collapsed. He felt that the way he had left the house was a little wrong. One had to know that the person he had fought before was the Lion Man from the abyss. He had been beaten until he was seriously injured, and in the end, he had escaped with injuries all over his body. In the end, he had not expected this. These 2 saint rank experts had also died. Adding on to the others, there were a total of 34 saint rank experts. Such valiant battle results were simply earth-shattering. "Li Xian, in the future, do we not have to worry about the invasion of the abyss anymore?" Huo Linger hurriedly asked. At the moment, only she dared to directly call Li Xian by his name. Even the human saint rank ancestor did not dare to. Chapter 460, Borrow 10 years of lifespan. That's right. As long as I'm here, no one can dream of conquering this world. If the abyss saint rank experts dare to come again, I'll make sure they never come back, Li Xian said domineeringly, his voice resounding and powerful. Make sure they never come back. When everyone heard this, their hearts shook violently once again. All of them were very excited and felt a sense of pride. After all, they had been suppressed by the abyss for many years. They had always been bullied by the abyss and invaded by the abyss. However, their Grand Marshal actually said such domineering words. This made them so excited that they wanted to shout and shout, even if it was the human saint rank ancestor. No one knew better than him how much pressure he had been under. Back then, he was the one who had shouldered everything by himself. That kind of pressure had almost crushed him. Especially when he had been severely injured in the previous battle, he had already lost all hope. However, who would have thought that at this moment of despair, Li Xian would appear? He had turned the tide with his own strength and fought back forcefully. He had even killed so many Abyss Saint rank experts. This kind of battle record could no longer be described as valiant. It could even be described as a miracle. Li Xian, thank you very much. With you around, I can leave with my mind at ease. The saint rank ancestor revealed a smile. He was already very close to his end, and this severe injury had brought his end forward. Therefore, he was prepared to return and find a place with no one to pass away. Leave it to me? Forget it. I have too many things to do, and I still need your help. Li Xian shook his head and refused. But my lifespan. The saint rank ancestor did not expect Li Xian to refuse and hurriedly explained the reason. It's fine. Who is willing to lend the saint rank ancestor 10 years of lifespan? I can extend his lifespan for 10 years, but it can only be extended once, Li Xian said seriously. Extend his lifespan. Everyone was shocked when they heard this and looked at Li Xian in disbelief. They did not expect Li Xian to have such a magical ability. I'll do it, great-grandfather. Your great-grandson will extend your lifespan for 10 years. In the corner, a youth walked out resolutely. His eyes were filled with determination as he said. All right, you'll do it. The success rate of the direct bloodline is higher. Li Xian saw that the saint rank ancestor wanted to say something and immediately interrupted. He made a decision in advance and did not give the saint rank ancestor the chance to speak. In this place, only he dared to say this. No one else dared to. When the saint rank ancestor heard Li Xian's words, he sighed deeply and looked at his great-grandson with some heartache. Child, this is a 10-year lifespan, not a child's play. Don't make a decision carelessly. It's fine, great-grandfather. I'm your great-grandson, and I'm willing to do it. Now that I have the opportunity to extend your lifespan, I naturally can't let go of this opportunity. You don't have any psychological pressure. After all, you have to protect this world, and your responsibility is even heavier. The youth spoke calmly and was very generous and willing to offer his life. Good child. The saint rank ancestor's tears flowed freely. Who would want to die if he could live, let alone live for another 10 years? In these 10 years, he could better protect this world. Perhaps at that time, he could truly see the world completely stabilize. Come over here and do it well. I need to start the ceremony and officially carry out the life-borrowing ceremony, Li Xian said as he pointed at the chair beside him. All right. The saint rank ancestor and his great-grandson walked over to their seats and quietly finished their preparations, waiting for the ceremony to begin. Whoosh! A resplendent light flashed and floated up from Li Xian's palm, forming a ball of light that was emitting a 7-colored radiance. This ball of light was the size of a ping-pong ball and was round. After it appeared, it quickly floated into the air and split apart, forming 36 balls of light with the same appearance. These balls of light floated around the saint rank ancestor and his great-grandson with a special array formation. They kept flashing with light and slowly formed a new structure. Faintly, a special profound pattern began to slowly take shape. Li Xian saw that it was almost time, so he suddenly injected his spiritual power into one of the 7-colored light balls. In the next second, all of the light balls shone brightly, like the sun, emitting a dazzling radiance. This radiance was too intense, so piercing that even the guards could not see clearly. They could only close their eyes. Only those who were gold rank and above could see everything clearly. Buzz! A strange sound was heard. A mysterious power gathered in the air and slowly took shape. It began to rotate and evaporate. During this process, the old face of the saint rank ancestor actually looked younger. The death aura around him also faded and became more lively. The face of his great-grandson next to him gradually grew older. A part of his white hair appeared at his temples and gently danced in the wind. It's done. Li Xian waved his right hand, and in an instant, all the strange images disappeared. The lifespan ceremony was officially completed. I can feel that I have another 10 years to live. The sacred level ancestor slowly stood up, and his slightly hunched body slowly became straight. A powerful aura rippled in all directions, and the power that was like a mountain flood and tsunami made him excited. Thank you. The saint rank ancestor bowed deeply to Li Xian. You're welcome. I'll leave the rest to you. I'll go find 2 people. Li Xian waved his hand, and his entire body disappeared in the ripples of water. After Li Xian left, the saint rank ancestor then looked at his great-grandson, stretched out his hand to pull him, and said softly, "Go, child. The family will focus on nurturing you from now on. I hope you can become the next saint rank." "Thank you, great-grandfather." The youth immediately revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. He lamented that he had not wasted these 10 years of his life. With this sacrifice, he had completely obtained his great-grandfather's recognition. He would walk on the path of a true expert. Naturally, his mood was very good. The surrounding people hurriedly congratulated him. The entire atmosphere was very good. It could be said that everyone was happy. Back to Lei Wushuan's side. At this moment, Lei Wushuan was standing next to a big rock, looking at this big rock with a complicated gaze. The sky-devouring demon was hidden within this rock. As long as she fused with the sky-devouring demon, she would be able to obtain great strength. According to the voice in Lightning Blade, the sky-devouring demon was terrifying. It could rely on devouring to rapidly become stronger. If she could become the dominant personality, there was a high chance that she could rely on devouring to reach the saint rank in the future, becoming a true super expert. After all, the sky-devouring demon used to be at the saint level. However, due to its serious injuries, its strength had been greatly reduced and it had no choice but to seal itself. As the chosen one, Lei Wushuan would definitely be able to obtain terrifying power if she merged with the sky-devouring demon. That kind of power could even reach the pinnacle of the saint rank. However, one would need to rely on luck if they wanted to become a demigod. After all, the sky-devouring demon had not become a demigod when it was at its strongest. It was only at the pinnacle of the saint rank. At the moment, the choice was up to Lei Wushuan. What should I do? Lei Wushuan hesitated. She vaguely felt that after the fusion, she would no longer be her. Even if she became the main personality, it would still be the same. Therefore, she was very conflicted. However, when she thought of the terrifying abyss, the danger the humans were facing, and Li Xian's protection, Lei Wushuan clenched her small fists. In the end, she still chose to fuse with it. Chapter 461, The Heart of Sealing was in his hands. Fuse with me. If I am no longer me, then I hope the future me who has done the fusion will save this world. Lei Wushuan smiled bitterly and looked at this world with nostalgia. Then, she raised his small snow-white hand and extended it towards the big rock. Bang! A muffled sound rang out. Lei Wushuan was sent flying and lay on the ground. Her buttocks were in pain and there were even footprints. Obviously, someone had appeared and kicked Lei Wushuan away. The mission to save the world has ended. You won't need to do it anymore. I'll take the sky-devouring demon with me. Li Xian glanced at Lei Wushuan who was lying on the ground in a daze. He immediately put away the huge rock that the sky-devouring demon had transformed into and disappeared into the void once again. Above the fresh soil and green grass, Lei Wushuan watched Li Xian leave in a daze. She felt the pain after her buttocks were kicked. She pouted helplessly and slowly stood up. How cruel! Even a beauty like me was sent flying. How can you bear to do it? However, why am I in such a good mood? I feel like the sky is even bluer. The entire world is warm. Lei Wushuan smiled. She felt her shoulders become unusually relaxed. Something called fate had dissipated. Yes. The fate that should belong to her had been taken away by someone. She no longer had to carry a heavy fate. Someone had carried her with a heavy load, and that person was even about to complete her fate. This guy clearly helped me, but he used such a method to leave after kicking me. He didn't even give me a chance to say thank you. As expected, there are some people that I will never be able to reach. Sigh. Lei Wuxuan looked at the lush green locust tree, smelled the fragrance of the flowers, and felt the breeze in the forest. She felt relaxed and warm in her heart. She felt really relaxed without the pressure of fate. She turned around and left, leaving her beautiful back in the wind. At the Abyss Fortress, in the deepest part of the tunnel, Li Xian slowly appeared. He looked at the spatial rift that was closing, and his eyes flashed. He was thinking about whether he should rush into the abyss again and kill the abyssal creatures again. However, after much consideration, Li Xian finally gave up. The abyss could be connected to each other. Li Xian could kill his way through this abyss world and other abyss worlds. It was possible that the demigods would descend when the time came. Li Xian was confident that he could escape from the hands of the demigods, but this world could not escape. This world was already in ruins, and stability should be the best outcome. After a moment of silence, Li Xian finally watched as the abyss slowly closed. On the other side, the living beings of the abyss closed the passageway. The abyss on the other side was afraid that Li Xian would rush over, so it chose to close the spatial rift on the other side. 3 days later, the spatial rift completely disappeared, and not a single trace could be seen anymore. However, Li Xian knew that the spatial coordinates were still there. If the other party wanted to invade, he could open the spatial rift once more. Seal. Li Xian pressed his hands on the spatial rift, and in an instant, mystical symbols spread out in all directions, shrouding a large area and slowly flickering with white light. The spatial coordinates disappeared within the seal. Even if the abyss wanted to invade in the future, they would be unable to find the corresponding coordinates. The abyss could only spend a large amount of time trying to probe the other spatial coordinates bit by bit. If the abyss was lucky, they could test it out within a few decades, but if they were unlucky, they might need a few thousand years. With this time, Li Xian had already grown to an extraordinary level. By then, all problems would no longer be a problem. Next, the Beast Tamer Sex Seal. Li Xian's figure disappeared into the void, disappearing in circles of water ripples. When he reappeared, he had already arrived at the Beast Tamer Sex spatial rift, and the crack here had long been closed. Seal. The sealing skill was cast once more, slowly appearing within the strange symbols. Li Xian busied himself for a while, and after making sure that he didn't miss anything, he disappeared once more. Not long after, in a huge cemetery. Above a tombstone with the words Chu Wang Kaiyu written on it, space rippled slightly as Li Xian descended from space. He held a bunch of white flowers in his hand and gently placed them in front of the tombstone, sighing. "Don't worry, this world has stabilized. You can rest in peace now." Li Xian gently touched the tombstone as the image of that valiant female general appeared in his mind. Back then, when they were in the Abyss Passage, the abyss erupted and all the passages surged into a sea of abyssal creatures. At that time, a female general holding a blood-colored spear and wearing blood-colored armor charged into the abyssal passage and went against the flow to save Li Xian. Although Li Xian relied on the array formation and would not be in danger, she was still there. Dragging her cursed body, she charged into the abyss passage to find Li Xian. At that time, Li Xian did not say anything. He only helped her remove the curse, but Li Xian remembered everything. He just did not expect it. When they met again, they were already separated by heaven and earth. This valiant female general eventually died in the invasion of the abyss. Not even her bones were left. What was buried here was her former battle robe. It was the grave with her clothes. After gently touching the tombstone, Li Xian took a look at the outside world. His figure slowly disappeared and he came to a large tree branch 500 meters away. Not long after, a young girl dressed in plain clothes carried a basket and came to the tombstone. When she saw the bunch of white flowers, she smiled sweetly. "And, look! It's not that no one has come to see you. The white flowers are very beautiful." The young girl smiled as she stood in front of the tombstone. She took out the food in the basket and placed them in front of the tombstone. She whispered softly and her voice was sweet. She spoke softly about her family matters, about her own matters, and about the past of the female general. It was as if the female general was still alive. She narrated bit by bit, looking a little warm and a little sad. 500 meters away, on a big tree, Li Xian stood quietly, looking at the figure in front of the tombstone in silence. Sigh. Li Xian waved his hand, and a protective light shot out, and then he disappeared. The little girl who was talking felt a warmth on her back. She looked around blankly and did not notice anything. However, inexplicably, it was as if there was some kind of power protecting her, which made her feel very warm. "And, are you responding to me? I don't know why, but I feel very at ease as if no one can hurt me. It's so strange." The little girl did not quite understand. She continued to nag and talk about her own matters. The light wind blew her long black hair, gently fluttering in the wind. In the wind, she faintly missed him. At the Abyss Fortress, in the general's residence, Li Xian paid a visit to this world's master, Huo Linger. He chatted with her for a long time and also reminded her for a long time, such as taking care of the widow of a general who had died in battle. By the time everything was settled, 10 days had already passed. This time, Li Xian had left. He had completely left this world and returned to the summoned beasts world. At the Ash Wolf area, in the city lord's residence, Li Xian returned amidst the ripples of water. He stood in the city lord's residence for a long time. Just as he was about to reincarnate, a message suddenly appeared. Exchange mission completed. You have lost 10 million honor points and obtained the Heart of Sealing. Chapter 462, The Chosen One was a tool man. The Heart of Sealing. Someone actually completed this mission. Who is it? Li Xian was very surprised. When he first issued this mission, he did not hold any hope at all. He just casually issued it and did not take it seriously. In the end, he did not expect the mission to be completed. This gave Li Xian a big surprise. He did not have much other than a lot of honor points. He already had several 100 million honor points. Spending 10 million was nothing to him. As long as he was willing, he could kill other races in other regions. He could earn 100 million a day. However, he did not do that because he did not lack honor points. The number of subjects in the territory increased. The number of honor points provided to Li Xian every day was a huge amount. Li Xian could not use them all. That was why Li Xian offered a high price of 10 million honor points to purchase the Heart of Sealing. In Li Xian's eyes, the value of the Heart of Sealing far exceeded the honor points. It was a good item that could raise one's sealing skill to the transcendent level. With the transcendent level sealing skill, Li Xian could once again stabilize the spatial rift and seal it once more. Li Xian, who was in a good mood, immediately took out the Heart of Sealing from the mission hall. After confirming it in detail, he revealed a surprised expression. The Heart of Sealing is real. There is still the power of the Abyss on it. It must have been obtained from the Abyss. Who is so extraordinary to be able to obtain this thing from the Abyss? Li Xian was very surprised. He immediately opened the mission log and carefully checked the completion status. Soon, a familiar name was discovered by Li Xian. It was someone he knew, Ye Fan. It's actually him. How could it be? Li Xian could not believe it. His god's perspective suddenly spread out and covered the Ash Wolf area. Soon, he locked onto Ye Fan's figure in the 1000 residential houses. At this moment, Ye Fan was talking to a little black cat. He was holding a large number of materials and jumping around excitedly. It seemed that he had used his honor points to exchange for a lot of materials. It's really him. How did this guy come to my territory? Li Xian frowned. He was very confused. He could not help but raise his left hand and check the information on the ash wolf mark. Soon, Li Xian found the information about Ye Fan entering the territory through the ash wolf mark. So it was the little black cat who brought him here. As the chosen one, Ye Fan has the blessing of the world. In the summoned beasts world, only my territory is the safest. That's why he had the chance to come here. Li Xian suddenly understood and finally understood the reason. The summoned beasts world was not safe. District 99 was considered the safest area, especially the ash wolf area. It was safer than the other places in District 99. In addition, this was a gathering place for humans. They could help each other, communicate with each other, and carry out transactions. It was definitely a good place. That was why this scene had happened. I didn't expect that the ash wolf area, which I didn't think much of back then, would start to take effect now. In the future, it might bring even more help. Li Xian thought of the chosen ones of the various worlds. These people were blessed by the world, and their luck was very good. If they came to the ash wolf area, they might be able to help Li Xian obtain a large number of transcendent materials. For example, Lei Wushuan. Although her responsibility disappeared, the world's blessing on her did not disappear. If she came to the ash wolf area, she would definitely do a good job with her strength and materials. First, I'll raise my sealing skill to transcendent level. Then, I'll strengthen the Beast Tamer sect and the seal of the Abyss Passage. Then, I'll bring Lei Wushuan over. As the chosen ones, they were lucky. In the future, they could hand over the rare mission materials to her. This way, it would save me a lot of trouble. Li Xian made a decision. He held the ice-like diamond-shaped sealing heart tightly and began to absorb it without hesitation. Buzz! With a strange sound, the heart of sealing melted rapidly. Like ice melting water, it turned into transparent water and flowed into Li Xian's palm, merging into his flesh and blood. Gradually, Li Xian's entire body was filled with a cold and warm current. A power of transformation from the inside to the outside began to reverberate and began to transform his sealing talent. Not long after, a mechanical voice slowly sounded. Ding! Peak level sealing skill has successfully advanced to transcendent level sealing skill. Finally, it's the transcendent level. Feeling the strange information flashing in his mind and the transformation of the sealing power, Li Xian had a feeling that the effect of his sealing talent had increased tenfold. A tenfold increase is really not bad. Li Xian was very satisfied and could not wait to strengthen the seal and experiment with his extraordinary sealing talent. Of course, before this, Li Xian had issued many materials missions in the mission hall, such as finding the Time Stone, the Rule Crystal, Phoenix Tears. Many of the materials missions that Li Xian needed had been issued, with a high reward of honor points, in order to encounter such an unexpected surprise again. After doing all of this, Li Xian chose to descend without hesitation. Whoosh! Li Xian's figure turned into nothingness and disappeared. When he reappeared, he had already arrived in the little fatty's world, in front of the Beast Tamer sect's seal. Seal! An even more tyrannical seal power spread out, reinforcing the seal here, making it even stronger. After doing all this, Li Xian looked at the streamlined seal pattern, looked at the sealing technique that even he was surprised by, and nodded with satisfaction, feeling that this world was even safer. I'll go to the Abyss Passage to reinforce the seal, then go look for Lei Wushuan. Li Xian muttered and disappeared into the air. He came to the depths of the Abyss Passage and reinforced the seal again. After everything was settled, Li Xian left with satisfaction. Using the god's perspective, he went to look for Lei Wushuan everywhere. North Desert City. This was a desert area. There were few people and demonic beasts were everywhere. Most of the people who lived here were martial artists. At the same time, due to the lack of traffic, they did not communicate much with the outside world and did not know much. On this day, a group of North Desert City's martial artists was looking in the direction outside the city gate with a solemn expression. They were looking at the figure who was slowly walking into the city. It was a beautiful girl carrying a lightning blade on her back. The girl was about 16 years old and her figure was well proportioned. Her pair of big black eyes were bright and lively, making her look extremely beautiful. However, the girl was currently carrying a car-sized monster bear with her delicate snow-white hands, humming a little tune as she walked into the city. The huge monster bear corpse formed a strong contrast with the 1.5-meter tall girl's height. It's Lei Wuxuan. How powerful! She actually fought back a demonic bear at the silver rank peak. She's too powerful, someone exclaimed in shock. That's right. Ever since Lei Wuxuan came to our North Desert City, everything she did was earth-shattering. First, she crippled the famous flower thief Wang Yunfei. Then, she destroyed the terrifying mountain bandit outside the city, the 13 swordsmen of North Desert City. She even cleaned up the evil Zheng family in the city. All of a sudden, North Desert City became better. Now, the atmosphere of the entire North Desert City has changed. It no longer has the gloomy feeling of the past. Instead, it seems to be thriving. Yet, no matter where I go now, I don't have to worry anymore. I can live a good life. Exactly. In the past, there were few women on the streets. Now, I can see a little girl and a lady from time to time. This is all brought by Lei Wuxuan. Now, she came back with a demonic bear at the silver rank peak. Isn't that normal? It is. Chapter 463, Understanding the Cause and Effect. Everyone was discussing and praising Lei Wuxuan secretly. Some people even started to admire and look up to Lei Wuxuan. Lei Wuxuan is really beautiful. It would be great if I could woo her, a tall and thin youth said. Don't even think about it. During these 2 days, there were a few people who approached Lei Wuxuan and wanted to woo her, but they were all kicked away by her. If you dare to approach her, she will definitely kick you away. Then I better not get close to her. I can't afford to offend her. The tall and thin young man backed out. He did not dare to pursue her, but he was still very fond of Lei Wuxuan. The people around him also looked similar. They felt that Lei Wuxuan was strong, beautiful, valiant, and youthful. They admired and adored her, but they did not dare to pursue her. Many people turned their backs and felt ashamed of their image. At this moment, the space rippled slightly. A dignified figure dressed in white appeared on the city wall, looking down on all living beings. This figure was naturally Li Xian. With the powerful strength of a saint rank and the help of God's perspective, Li Xian quickly found Lei Wuxuan. Seeing Lei Wuxuan walking out of the city gate, Li Xian did not hesitate to float down from the city wall and stopped in front of Lei Wuxuan, blocking her way. Everyone was paying attention to Lei Wuxuan and did not pay attention to how Li Xian appeared. They thought that Li Xian jumped down from the city wall. Seeing Li Xian blocking in front of Lei Wuxuan, these people frowned and were inexplicably unhappy. However, they were looking forward to Lei Wuxuan kicking Li Xian away. Do you want to go to a place with me? There, you will have a better development. Li Xian looked at Lei Wuxuan and said. Where is it? Lei Wuxuan looked at Li Xian in front of him. Her eyes lit up and he asked curiously. My territory, Li Xian said indifferently. Okay, I will go with you. Lei Wuxuan nodded without hesitation. Well, don't resist. It's useless to resist. Li Xian waved his hand. The big soul hand appeared and grabbed Lei Wuxuan's body. Then, the two disappeared in the water ripples. When the crowd saw this scene, they were stunned for a moment, and then they were shocked. Spatial power, it's actually spatial power. This is a power that only gold rank can come into contact with. Who is this person? I'm not sure. I've stayed in North Desert City all my life, and I've never gone out. A power that only gold rank can come into contact with. No wonder Lei Wushuan didn't kick him and was very obedient. Didn't you notice? After that person appeared, Lei Wushuan immediately threw away the demonic bear and acted like a lady. There must be a story behind this. Don't talk nonsense. I don't believe there's a story. That's the goddess Lei Wushuan that I like. She ran away with someone. I feel so bad. Ignoring the situation in North Desert City. After Li Xian brought Lei Wushuan back to the Ash Wolf area, he placed her in a house in the residential area and told her the general situation. Then, Li Xian left. Li Xian wanted the chosen one to work for him. Since he had brought her here, he did not need to care about her anymore. She would naturally know how to do the missions. Next, I'll go to Zhang Yun's world. Li Xian thought of the world where he had been reincarnated and the two-headed ogre. At that time, he had reincarnated as the two-headed ogre and refined pills with Demon 2 in Zhang Yun's world. Later, he was cursed and died. That world was also invaded. It was the invasion of the Dark Army of the Abyss. In the end, he was cursed to death. The Abyss world contained too many attributes. The Dark Army was just a small world in the Abyss world. There were very few gold rank experts. At that time, there was only one gold rank human named Marshal Yang. It was enough to prove that the Dark Army was very weak by relying on him to protect the world for a long time. Li Xian wanted to find Zhang Yun because he wanted to take a look at that world. He wanted to take a look at Demon 2 and understand the cause and effect. Let's go take a look. I'll destroy all the dark creatures, seal the spatial rift, and then leave. Only then can I go to the God's domain world with peace of mind. Li Xian muttered as he carefully felt the summoning contract that he had signed before. As long as the master was still alive, he could feel the contract that he had signed before. As long as he was willing, he could directly descend into the other party's world. Especially after reaching saint rank, he could clearly feel the power of the contract. Therefore, heading to Zhang Yun's world was a piece of cake. Let's go and take a look at Demon 2. Li Xian's body was suffused with 7-colored radiance. Under the ability to descend, he disappeared into the void. The fertile continent, in Iron Blood City. As an important frontline city to resist the Dark Army, Iron Blood City had stationed the strongest army in this world. They risked their lives to protect the city, not to be conquered, and to protect the human race with all their strength. At this moment, the atmosphere in Iron Blood City was very oppressive. There were very few people on the streets. Even if someone passed by, they would still pass by in a hurry. The air in the entire city seemed to be pulled tight. It became so oppressive that it was hard to breathe. At the Grand Marshal's residence, a group of people stood at the door of the Grand Marshal's residence's bedroom and walked around anxiously. From time to time, there would be doctors and alchemists coming in and out with all sorts of medicinal pills and herbs. However, the expressions of these people were very solemn. It was obvious that they had encountered a major incident. This also made the people who were waiting more and more anxious. I hope Marshal Yang can be safe. Without Marshal Yang, there will be no future in this world. The bald captain sighed. It will definitely work. My god-grandfather will definitely be fine. Definitely. Zhang Yun, who was wearing armor and carrying a long spear on his back, said solemnly. There was unconcealable anxiety on his face. Behind him was a two-headed ogre wearing armor. One of the heads of the two-headed ogre would always close its eyes. It would never open its eyes again, and it would lean to one side weakly. The ogre's hand carefully dragged the head, preventing it from falling down. It also used its life force to nourish the head, allowing it to maintain its vitality forever, even if it was already dead. This ogre was none other than Demon 2, who had once shared the same body as Li Xian. At this moment, Demon 2's face had lost its previous silly look. Instead, it was filled with determination and solemnity. The reason why they were standing here and pacing back and forth anxiously was that the strongest human being, gold rank Marshal Yang, was seriously injured and on the verge of death. A few days ago, the large-scale invasion of the Dark Army, and the fall of the Castle Mountain Range, caused the loss of an important strategic location for the humans. That battle caused them to lose countless soldiers and the human army to suffer heavy losses. The most powerful human being, gold rank Marshal Yang, was fighting two gold rank enemies. Both sides fought until early this morning. One gold rank was killed in the Battle of the Dark Army while Marshal Yang was seriously injured and on the verge of death. Even his most important weapon, the Yang family spear, was broken. He had paid a heavy price. Without Marshal Yang, humans would be slaughtered by the Dark Army. Therefore, everyone was pacing back and forth anxiously with despair hidden in their eyes. It would be great if my big brother was still alive. He's very good at alchemy. Maybe he could save Marshal Yang. Demon 2 thought of Li Xian and felt sad. When Li Xian was still alive, he refined a large number of pills and helped humans win over the Castle Mountain Range. He had taken down the Castle Mountain Range and maintained the humans' advantage until a few days ago. If the Dark Army did not have a gold rank, humans would have been able to maintain the status for a very long time. Chapter 464, He froze the Dark Army. It was a pity. In the end, they were defeated. The appearance of a gold rank warrior had broken the balance. The humans had once again walked to the edge of despair. Since Marshal Yang was unconscious, the entire Iron Blood City had fallen into an extreme depression. Faced with the Dark Army that could attack at any time, everyone present had no idea what to do. They did not know what to do. However, what they feared came true. While everyone was anxious, an intelligence officer rushed in and shouted in fear. "They're here, they're here. The Dark Army is launching a large-scale attack. They're attacking the Iron Blood City." "What? So fast? Damn it, these damn Dark Army! We're in big trouble now. It's over, it's really over. Without Marshal Yang, our remaining army won't be able to stop the Dark Army. We'll definitely die." Everyone present had despair in their eyes. Each and every one of them fell into deep worry, feeling as if the world had turned dark. Zhang Yun was also in despair. His expression had even turned extremely ugly. However, looking at the anxious people around him and thinking that he was Marshal Yang's god-grandson, he could only think of a way to stabilize the situation at this moment. Therefore, Zhang Yun took a step forward and said loudly, "Everyone, don't panic. I believe that my god-grandfather will definitely wake up. Everyone, come with me to block the Dark Army first and buy time for my god-grandfather. Yes, Marshal Yang will definitely wake up. He is a gold rank and has strong vitality. He will definitely wake up." The bald captain quickly nodded. "Let's go and defend the city. Let's buy time for Marshal Yang. Let's go." Everyone was in despair. However, as long as Marshal Yang had the chance to wake up, they would have a glimmer of hope. With their mutual encouragement, they finally walked out of the city lord's mansion and headed toward the city wall of Iron Blood City. However, when they came to the city wall, they looked outside the city and looked at the dense Dark Army soldiers in the distance. They fell silent. The endless Dark Army that was rapidly rushing over made everyone feel fear. Even Zhang Yun was trembling, looking at the dark creatures that were rushing over like a tide in horror. "There are too many of them. We can't stop them at all. What should we do? What should we do?" Zhang Yun looked at the dark creatures in horror. He looked at their ferocious faces and felt the terrifying aura they were emitting. Zhang Yun was in despair. The fear in his heart could not be suppressed at all. He was not the only one who was in despair. Everyone present felt despair. That sea of dark creatures was not something they could stop at all. It was simply a nightmare for them. At this moment, they finally felt how important Marshal Yang was when he was around. He was like a stabilizing needle, protecting the Iron Blood City and protecting the humans. However, with Marshal Yang unconscious, the humans had completely fallen into despair. If there were no special circumstances, this day next year would be the death anniversary of Iron Blood City. In this atmosphere of despair, the dark creatures had finally arrived. They surrounded the huge Iron Blood City like a tide and began to attack the city amidst endless roars. The battle had begun at an unknown time. Facing the endless dark army, Zhang Yun led the humans to resist desperately. They shouted in despair, fighting for that glimmer of hope. The fierce battle continued. The city gate was on the verge of collapsing under the frenzied attack. The densely packed six-legged monsters climbed up the city wall and rushed to the city wall to fight the humans. The strange flying creatures descended from the sky and attacked the humans in fresh blood. The entire Iron Blood City was in a battle. Facing the endless dark army, the humans were at an absolute disadvantage. Even though they relied on the city, there were still casualties. The only fortunate thing was that the gold rank of the dark army did not appear. That guy seemed to be afraid of being beaten. If Marshal Yang did not die, that guy would not appear. He craftily used the dark army to deplete the number of humans. The battle continued. The 2-hour battle caused heavy casualties to the humans. The shadow of death had already enveloped everyone. Even the ignorant children knew that the humans were going to be finished. In such a desperate situation, at the moment when everyone thought that they were going to be finished, circles of water ripples suddenly appeared in the sky. Following that, a handsome young man dressed in white appeared from the void and stood quietly in the sky above Iron Blood City. The young man's sharp eyes swept across the surroundings. He glanced at the dark army that was like a tidal wave and then pointed down gently. Whoosh! A straight line of ice suddenly shot down from the young man's fingertip and hit the dark army. It hit a stone and left a white spot. Such a change did not cause any waves. The dark army did not even stop. However, in the next second, the terrifying ice suddenly swept across the area. In an instant, the endless ice covered the dark army like a tide. In their disbelief, they were directly frozen. In just a few intentional moments, the dark army in the west of the city was frozen into ice sculptures. Their faces were still filled with disbelief. However, the spread of the ice did not end. A huge amount of ice crossed Iron Blood City. With Iron Blood City as the center, it swept in all directions, freezing all the dark creatures in all directions outside the city. The ice even rushed into Iron Blood City, freezing all the dark creatures that were fighting. On the other hand, the humans who were fighting against the dark creatures were not affected at all. The ice actually missed them. The key point was that these people were originally fighting against the dark creatures. The axes that were chopped down did not stop in time and directly hit the ice. In the end, the ice was not affected at all. Instead, cracks appeared on the axes. Such a result, such an ice seal. Everyone widened their eyes and looked at the ice in disbelief. What? What's going on? Where did the ice come from? It's so terrifying. The dark army has been frozen. The ones outside the city have all been frozen, someone on the city wall shouted. What? The ones outside the city have been frozen too. Everyone was even more shocked when they heard this. They quickly ran to the city wall and looked outside. Then, they saw a vast expanse of white outside the city. A sea of ice sculptures appeared outside the city, revealing all kinds of faces. Some roared, some were bloodthirsty, some were terrified, some were shocked, and some were in disbelief. The creatures inside these ice sculptures looked like what they looked like before they were frozen. They maintained their original appearance, and they would continue to maintain it, never to be broken. Who is it? Who is so terrifying that they could freeze the dark army? Even Marshal Yang couldn't do it with such strength. Someone could not help but be shocked. Quick, look at the sky. There's a person there. He's actually standing in the air. What? Everyone hurriedly raised their heads when they heard the shout and looked toward the sky. Indeed, in the air, a white-robed figure stood there quietly. He was like a god looking down on everything, looking down on all living beings. What was shocking was that this person did not have any golden wings on his body, but he was able to stand quietly in the air. Such strength could no longer be described as a gold rank. Chapter 465, Giant Wolf Phantom. This was because gold rank warriors needed to use their gold wings to fly in the air. However, the figure in the sky was just standing there, stepping on the air as if it was flat ground. What? What kind of existence is this? There are actually such terrifying powerhouses among humans? How is this possible? This may be a powerhouse that surpasses gold rank. Marshal Yang once said that there is a terrifying level above gold rank. That's the legendary saint rank, the saint rank that rules the world. The bald captain shouted in shock. Saint rank? The saint rank that rules the world. Everyone was shocked. They were shocked by the white-robed figure in the sky. Then, they were pleasantly surprised. It was definitely a great surprise for the humans to have such a terrifying powerhouse. With such a powerhouse, the Dark Army would no longer be able to take down Iron Blood City. They finally did not have to die. Therefore, at this moment, the humans in the city looked at the countless lifelike ice sculptures outside the city. Looking at the mysterious powerhouse in the sky, the crowd couldn't help but cheer. Whoosh! A gentle breeze blew past. The figure in white floated down from the sky and landed lightly on the city wall. Under everyone's gaze, he stopped in front of Zhang Yun. Long time no see, Zhang Yun. Li Xian looked at Zhang Yun, who had a scar on his face, and said softly. Long time no see? Sir. Sir, do you know me? Zhang Yun stuttered. Yes. Li Xian nodded and looked at Demon 2 behind Zhang Yun. Seeing that it had gone from being silly to calm and determined, he knew that it must have experienced a lot, so he could not help but say. Demon 2, long time no see. You can call me Big Brother or Li Xian. Li Xian's words made Demon 2 tremble. It said in disbelief, You're my big brother. Yes, I didn't expect that this head still contained a rich vitality. Li Xian looked at the head next to Demon 2. He could feel that Demon 2 was constantly consuming its vitality to provide for this head and make it glow with vitality. This was not a small consumption for Demon 2, but it still chose to do this. This kind of behavior was really silly and cute. Eat these pills. It can help you reach silver rank. In the future, it can assist you and help you grow to the silver rank peak faster. Li Xian took out a bottle of pills from his dimensional pocket and directly threw it to Demon 2. He did not care about the value of the pills at all. Thank you. Big brother. Demon 2 stammered. MMHM, where is Marshal Yang? Li Xian asked. Big brother, Marshal Yang is seriously injured. He is unconscious and is in the Marshal's residence. Demon 2 hurriedly explained. Leave it to me. He will wake up soon. Li Xian's figure suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he had already arrived at the Marshal's residence and arrived before Marshal Yang's bed. The alchemists and physicians who were treating Marshal Yang were shocked when they saw this scene. They wanted to say something, but they suddenly realized that they could not speak anymore. They were even pushed aside by a terrifying force. This made their hearts palpitate. They knew that they had encountered an existence that they could not afford to offend. They could only watch from afar, looking on worriedly. Your injuries are indeed not light, but it's very easy for me to treat you. Li Xian's right hand emitted the holy light of the holy healing skill. The power that belonged solely to the light enveloped Marshal Yang's entire body, healing his injuries. As the power of the light surged, Marshal Yang's injuries quickly healed. His pale face gradually turned rosy, and his faintly discernible breathing also returned to normal. Seeing this scene, the physicians and alchemists were pleasantly surprised. They looked at Li Xian with grateful gazes. On the other side, on the city wall, Zhang Yun was still standing there in a daze, unable to believe that he was still standing there. When he thought about how the saint-rank powerhouse who had destroyed the Dark Army actually knew him, and that he was his former master, Zhang Yun was extremely excited. One had to know that he had acknowledged Li Xian as his master back then. Every time he saw Li Xian, he had to bow. However, he did not expect that the master he had recognized back then would actually become so terrifying at the moment. This made Zhang Yun feel as if he was dreaming. Besides him, Demon 2 was also a little unable to react. Even though it had exchanged a few words with Li Xian, it was still a little dazed and its head was buzzing. However, looking at the endless ice sculptures outside the city, they were finally convinced of everything. They finally understood that he, who had helped the humans take down the castle mountain range, had returned. This time, he would take back the castle mountain range in a thunderous manner and completely expel the Dark Army. At the thought of this, everyone was extremely excited and hurriedly ran towards the marshal's residence. 3 days later, on Castle Mountain Range, Li Xian and Marshal Yang led the human army and charged toward the Castle Mountain Range in a mighty manner. They charged toward the strategic location of the humans and were prepared to attack the Dark City at the other end of the mountain range. As the bridgehead for attacking the humans, the Abyss had also built a huge city called the Dark City. There were a large number of Abyss powerhouses living in it. At this moment, these Abyss powerhouses had solemn expressions. From time to time, they would look at their leader, a wolf-headed gold-rank abyssal creature. Lord Wolfhead, are we really not retreating? That human powerhouse that suddenly appeared is too terrifying. We really can't afford to offend him, a kobold said worriedly. It's fine. I'm prepared to summon a projection and request for Lord Vertical Pupil from the lower Abyss world to descend. Lord Vertical Pupil is at the Saint Rank Peak, a truly terrifying existence. With him around, all problems can be solved. The wolf-headed gold-rank abyssal creature said confidently. Summon Lord Vertical Pupil's projection? Doesn't that mean we have to sacrifice tens of millions of people? The kobold said, trembling. As long as we can annihilate the human experts, so what if we have to sacrifice tens of millions of people? As long as we take down this world, all the sacrifices are worth it, the wolf-headed gold-rank abyssal creature said loudly. But to summon it, we need 10 silver-rank beings as the support and a gold-rank flesh as the foundation. We don't have suitable candidates, the kobold said worriedly. I already have a candidate. As for the gold-rank flesh, we'll use the giant axe. Since it's already dead, we can continue to sacrifice for the abyss. The wolf-headed gold-rank abyssal creature said coldly, squinting at the castle mountain range. They're here. Let's begin. Buzz. A strange sound began to ring. An unknown sacrificial ritual began to gather, gradually forming a giant wolf phantom in the void. The giant wolf phantom had yet to materialize and was still in an illusion. It still needed some time to gather, but it was already gradually emitting a terrifying aura. At the Castle Mountain Range, Li Xian led the humans to take down the Castle Mountain Range as easily as breaking dry weeds. They took down an important strategic location. Then, he led the group to continue their journey toward the Dark City. At the Dark City, the illusory image of the giant wolf gradually solidified and became more and more lively. Suddenly, the image of the giant wolf shook and completely took shape. Whoosh! The giant wolf opened its eyes. Its sharp eyes swept across the surroundings and the city of darkness. What a barren world! It's a good opportunity to move around in this world and vent my feelings. The giant wolf phantom thought of the powerful person called Li Xian whom it had encountered in the abyss the last time. It could not help but shudder when it thought of the young man in white who had killed a human who had traveled millions of miles through the abyss. Fortunately, I ran fast enough at that time, so I wasn't killed by that human. Otherwise, I would have been finished. However, I was also quite aggrieved. I hid in my territory for a long time and did not dare to come out. Today, I will relax in this world and kill him. The giant wolf phantom muttered to itself, preparing to start a massacre in this world and turn it upside down. Chapter 466, Counterattack. In this kind of emotion, the giant wolf phantom wantonly released its own power. That terrifying aura suppressed the creatures in the dark city. Their expressions changed drastically, and they could not even stand properly. Lord Vertical Eye, your aura is too powerful. We can't withstand it, the wolf-headed gold-rank abyssal creature hurriedly said. Trash, you can't even handle this little aura. No wonder you can't take down this barren world. You're really trash, Lord Vertical Eye said coldly. Sorry, Lord Vertical Eye. We're too useless. Fortunately, you're here. As long as we display our divine might, we'll definitely destroy the human experts, the wolf-headed GOL rank abyssal creature said hurriedly. Humph, consider yourself lucky. Today, I'll let you see how powerful this Wolf King is. I'll let you experience the huge gap between every world and the abyss. Vertical Pupil said proudly, his face full of confidence. He did not take human experts seriously. He only treated this place as a low-level world where he could vent his anger at will. The main reason was that the spiritual power in this world was too thin. Vertical Pupil could instantly tell that it was very difficult for such a world to have experts, even if gold rank experts appeared. In such a low-level world, Vertical Pupil was not worried about encountering danger at all. Naturally, he showed off his strength. As a saint rank powerhouse, Vertical Pupil's observation ability was very strong. Therefore, he easily discovered the human army that was coming from a distance. Looking at the human army that was only black iron rank or bronze level, Vertical Pupil felt that it was very funny. It was reckless to attack the dark city with such little strength. Therefore, Vertical Pupil laughed and said mockingly, "The human race is too weak. How dare they attack with such little strength? There are actually soldiers below black iron rank in the army. It's really funny." Vertical Eye found it very funny. It carefully observed the human army and found that there was only one gold rank powerhouse. It did not see any stronger existences. Only one gold rank? How did this bit of strength stop you? When you summoned me, didn't you say that there was a stronger existence? Why didn't I see it? Vertical Eye was puzzled. It lowered its head and looked at the wolf-headed gold rank abyssal creature. Lord Vertical Eye, there's an existence that seems to be at the saint rank among the humans. With a single finger, it froze my army. It's extremely terrifying, the wolf-headed gold rank abyssal creature hurriedly explained. Seems to be at the saint rank? How can such a low-level world give birth to a saint rank? You must be dreaming. Why didn't I see it? Vertical Eye carefully observed the human army. It did not see any existence that seemed to be at the saint rank. It felt that there should not be such an expert. In its opinion, in such a barren world, there would not be any super powerhouses, just like how an ant nest would not appear, like an ant that was stronger than a human. Of course, even if they appeared, they would only be at the lower level of the saint rank. There was a huge gap between them and it, who was at the completion of the saint rank, so there was no need to worry at all. Thus, Vertical Eye calmly scanned around, watching the human army approach little by little. This indifference also affected the abyssal creatures in the dark city. These monsters were originally very worried. However, since they had Lord Vertical Pupil, the monsters were no longer worried. All of them stared at the human army with bloodthirsty eyes. Time passed. The human army arrived in an imposing manner and stopped at the city. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the army. It was a handsome young man dressed in white. There was no aura fluctuation on the young man's body. He looked just like an ordinary person. However, the moment the young man appeared, he actually stood in the air and stood in front of the dark city. This scene made the hearts of the monsters in the dark city tighten, but when they thought of Lord Vertical Pupil, the monsters began to howl arrogantly. However, these monsters did not realize that Vertical Pupil, whose strength had reached the saint rank peak, was actually trembling at this moment. He was shivering. This was because it recognized Li Xian. It knew that Li Xian was the powerful man who had penetrated the abyss for millions of miles. He was known as the Undying Saint Emperor, Li Xian. Back then, when they were in the abyss, the Vertical Pupil had been so scared by Li Xian that he did not dare to come out. He had been hiding in his territory for a long time. However, after being summoned once with great difficulty, he met Li Xian again. This had scared Vertical Pupil so much that his scalp was numb. Lord Vertical Pupil, it's this person. He has frozen my dark army. Please make your move quickly. Destroy this person and lead us to destroy this world. The wolf-headed gold-rank abyssal creature said loudly and kept pointing at Li Xian in the sky. Its words made Vertical Pupil's heart jump and his face turn black. It was still thinking of escaping, but it did not expect this subordinate to actually shout here. This really made it half angry. The furious Vertical Pupil said fiercely, "Shut up! Don't drag me along if you want to die. Get lost!" After saying that, Vertical Pupil vanished with a whoosh, and the entire shadow completely vanished between heaven and earth. This scene caused the wolf-headed gold-rank abyssal creature to be dumbfounded on the spot. It looked at the dissipating void in a daze, not understanding what was going on at all. It was not the only one. The many abyssal creatures in the dark city were also staring blankly. Their brains seemed to have been stuffed with paste as they stood rooted to the ground. "You ran quite fast." The indifferent voice echoed in the sky, and also in the ears of all the creatures. When the voice rang out, it immediately sent chills down the backs of all the abyssal creatures. Each and every one of them felt a strong sense of danger. They were not stupid. They had already guessed why Lord Vertical Pupil had escaped. He must have been scared away by Li Xian. Lord Vertical Pupil, who was at the saint rank peak, had been scared away. The remaining gold rank and silver rank monsters could not afford to offend Li Xian at all. Therefore, at this moment, the abyssal creatures felt their scalps go numb and their hearts palpitate. It was also at this moment. Li Xian, who was in the sky, took a step forward and stood above the city of darkness like a god. His index finger was aimed at the gold rank monsters in the city. In an instant, the wolf-headed gold rank abyssal creature could feel a strong sense of danger. The sense of danger was too strong, as if a great disaster was coming, causing its scalp to go numb. The gold rank abyssal creature, who was terrified in its heart, knew that it was going to be in trouble. It could not help but beg for mercy. "Sir, please wait." Boom! There was a loud rumble, and the earth trembled. An intense wind whistled past, and a terrifying shockwave swept out in all directions. When everything was settled, the gold rank abyssal creature and a few powerful silver ranks around it vanished into thin air. They did not even have the chance to resist a saint rank. They were instantly killed. This scene was clearly seen by everyone. The abyssal creatures were all terrified, and the human army was shouting excitedly. "That's enough. I'll leave the rest of this trash to you guys. I'll go deal with the spatial rift." Li Xian left his words and disappeared into the void. Whoosh! The gold rank Marshal Yang flew into the sky rapidly. His entire body was covered in golden armor. He flapped his golden wings on his back and held a golden spear in his hand. "All armies, listen up. Follow me and charge into the dark city. Kill!" Following the furious roar of the mountain torrents, the humans charged into the dark city with their blood boiling. They charged at all the abyssal creatures. Chapter 467, Heading to the God's Domain World. There were not many experts left in the dark city. The sacrifice had consumed too many living creatures. Currently, the strongest expert in Dark City was only a silver rank. However, as soon as it jumped out, it was instantly killed by Marshal Yang. It did not even have time to speak. The remaining Abyss Silver ranks hurriedly fled, but soon, they were all killed by Marshal Yang. After killing all the Silver rank warriors, Marshal Yang went to kill the Bronze rank warriors, causing the human Silver rank warriors to be unable to find their enemies. They had no choice but to kill the Black Iron rank warriors. The soldiers charged into the Dark City in an imposing manner. However, they did not see many enemies, so they quickly snatched the monsters and fought for battle merits. Just like that, the entire Dark City was flattened and completely controlled by the human race. On the other side, in front of the huge spatial rift, Li Xian was floating quietly, thinking about how to deal with the world on the other side of the spatial rift. The human race has been bullied for so long. Today, I will avenge the humans and teach the abyss a lesson. Then, I will kill all the creatures within 1,000,000 miles of the abyss. Li Xian smiled and condensed a white spear in his hand. Then, he resolutely rushed into the space crack. 7 days later, Li Xian returned. His body was spotless. It was as if he had gone on an outing. Too weak. None of them can fight. Light appeared on Li Xian's hand. He closed the spatial rift with a series of cracking sounds. Then, he sealed it completely to resolve any future problems. It's finally settled. It's time for me to leave. Li Xian found Marshal Yang again. He left behind a batch of things and returned to the summoned beasts world under the reverent gazes of the people. In the following period of time, Li Xian used the contracts that were left behind to search for the previous masters. He passed through the world after world and dealt with a large number of enemies from the abyss. During this process, Li Xian also gathered a few of the chosen ones, and let them go to the Ashwolf area to do missions to earn honor points. Basically, Li Xian had gone to all the masters who had signed a contract with Li Xian. He would go to them as long as they were still alive. The only world that he had not been to was Aday's world. Aday was once the young man who liked to cry. He was weak and liked to call Li Xian Lord Panther. After Aday signed a contract with a holy beast, his fate changed. As for what would happen in the future, it was unclear. The reason why Li Xian did not go to Aday's world was that according to the contract, he discovered that Aday's soul power was very strong. Li Xian guessed that Aday's strength might have reached gold rank, and it was even growing rapidly. His holy beast was feeding him in all directions, giving Aday powerful strength. Sensing that Aday's situation was good, Li Xian did not continue to descend. Instead, he returned to Qin Yu's world, reinforced the seal, and killed some smugglers. Time passed like this. Soon, 3 years had passed. After receiving Li Xian's newly reinforced seal, the spatial rift in Qin Yu's world was still stable. After Li Xian, Qin Yu, and Ye Fan's repeated inspections, they found that the spatial rift could hold on for another 10 years. This made everyone breathe a sigh of relief. However, after 10 years, the seal would reach its limit. When that time came, no matter how many seals there were, it would be useless. They still needed to work hard. They still needed to quickly increase their strength. They would face a great crisis 10 years later. Time continued to pass. In the blink of an eye, another 7 years had passed. During these 7 years, Li Xian did not enter the God's domain world. Instead, he continuously reincarnated. He signed a contract for a new master to be summoned by the master. He would raise his soul level and strengthen himself. The increase in his strength caused Li Xian to feed Qin Yu back. At the same time, he received Qin Yu's soul feedback to strengthen himself. In the past 7 years, Qin Yu's strength had increased dramatically because of the 3 drops of mysterious blood. Her spiritual power level increased at a very fast speed. It could be described as riding a rocket. At the moment, with the help of the mysterious blood and Li Xian's soul feedback, Qin Yu had finally comprehended the domain and reached the saint rank. Her strength had already surpassed Ye Fan by a lot. After all, Ye Fan was only at the gold rank. He was still far from the saint rank. It was estimated that in a few more decades, Ye Fan might not even reach the saint rank, or even reach the half-saint rank. However, Qin Yu had reached it. With Li Xian's constant soul feedback and the help of the mysterious blood, Qin Yu finally became a low-level saint rank powerhouse. This speed was already quite terrifying. Almost no one surpassed her. Of course, Li Xian was an exception. Li Xian took very little time to go from the lowest level summoned beast to the saint rank. It could be said that he had improved like a monster. Just like at this moment. Although Li Xian had not gone to God's domain world in the past 7 years, his strength had still increased crazily. Other people would need tens to hundreds of years to advance from the low-level saint rank to the mid-level saint rank. However, Li Xian was different. Not only had he successfully reached the mid-level saint rank, but he had even reached the high-level saint rank not too long ago. Such an increase could simply be described as inconceivable. And after Li Xian and Qin Yu reached the saint rank at the same time, the soul feedback between them became even more terrifying. The two of them formed some sort of cycle, and the speed of their improvement became even more inconceivable. However, they still had a very, very long way to go before they could reach the demigod realm. The difference between demigods and saint ranks was too great. They would not be able to reach the demigod realm in 8 to 10 years. This matter had troubled Li Xian for a long time. It made him want to go to the God's domain world more than once. However, every time he thought of the God's domain world, he would think of that stone tablet and that strange woman. This kind of creature known as the destroyer race was really difficult to deal with. Even if Li Xian encountered the strange woman from before, he still had to be careful. If he was not careful, he might get caught in a trap and die in the God's domain world. However, there were still 3 years before the Abyss invasion. Li Xian had to make a choice. That morning, the sun was bright and beautiful, the birds were singing and the flowers were fragrant. Li Xian and Qin Yu held hands as they walked in the peony garden, sniffing the beautiful fragrance of the flowers. The two of them walked in silence, as if they were immortal companions, enjoying the two of them. After a long time, the two of them walked to the pavilion and sat down. They quietly looked at the peony flowers in the garden and looked at the white butterflies dancing in the flowers. "Hubby, are you really going to the God's domain world? We still have 3 years. Can you wait a little longer? I'm afraid that you won't be able to come back," Qin Yu said with worry in her beautiful eyes. "The speed at which my strength increases is too slow. Before the spatial rift collapses, I must have the strength of a demigod. Only in this way can I protect this world. So, I can only go to the God's domain world." Li Xian sighed. The 999th level of the Abyss had brought him heavy pressure. The pressure was so heavy that he could barely breathe. He had to make a choice. In these 3 years, he had to become a demigod. Otherwise, this world would be destroyed. The efforts of the Divine Emperor would vanish into thin air. "Can I go with you? I can feel that those 3 drops of blood come from the God's domain world. It has made me different. I have undergone a qualitative transformation. I believe that as long as I go with you, I will definitely be able to help you." Qin Yu blinked her big eyes and said seriously. "You haven't completely fused with the blood. You won't be able to stay in the God's domain world for much longer. You can't go over for the time being." Li Xian shook his head. Seeing Qin Yu's disappointed expression, he comforted her. "Don't worry. You'll have the opportunity to go in the future. Right now, your task is to continue to absorb the power in the blood, completely fuse with it, and grasp a powerful power. When I encounter danger again, you can also save me again, right?" Li Xian said as he rubbed Qin Yu's small head. Yes, I understand. I'll continue to absorb the power in my blood. If I sense that you're in danger, I'll save you immediately." Qin Yu nodded seriously. "Yes, then I'll be leaving. You wait for me at home." I'll definitely return in 3 years. When that time comes, I'll bring you to the abyss to kill the demigods. After Li Xian finished speaking, he lovingly pinched Qin Yu's small face. Feeling the smooth and tender skin, he smiled and slowly disappeared. Chapter 468, The Terror of God's Domain World. In God's Domain World, Li Xian's figure appeared once more. Through the hero's rule talent contained within his talent, he chose to be summoned. However, what surprised him was, when he arrived in the God's Domain World, he did not see a new lord. Instead, he saw an enormous black smoke monster. This monster was 3 meters tall. Its entire body was like rolling smoke, continuously steaming. It was extremely inconceivable. The key point was that this monster's appearance was a black smoke monster, and its interior was actually some sort of light condensation of the fire element. In other words, the fire element's power was inside while the abyss elemental power was outside. The two types of energy were resisting each other. At the same time, they were fusing with each other, forming a strange life force. The power emitted by the smoke monster was simply too terrifying. Even the space itself was trembling intensely. One had to know that this was the God's Domain World. The space here was even more stable. Even if the gods wanted to cause such a terrifying spatial tremor, it would not be easy. However, the smoke monster was actually unconsciously and continuously emitting power. The power it emitted was extremely terrifying. Seeing Li Xian's heart skipped a beat. Li Xian suppressed the shock in his heart. Using his god's perspective, he quickly scanned his surroundings. In the end, he saw a scene that made Li Xian's heart skip a beat. He saw smoke monsters in all directions. There were densely packed stone tablets. There were all kinds of portraits on these stone tablets. There was a white-haired old man, an old woman holding a cane, a 2-meter-tall middle-aged man, a charming middle-aged woman, a young and beautiful woman, and a handsome scholar. Other than these, there were even younger boys and girls, children and babies. There were all kinds of things. These stone tablets were like gravestones, standing in all directions around the fog monster. The closer they were to the stone tablets of the fog monster, the older the image of the person, and the more terrifying the aura they emitted. What shocked Li Xian was that the smoke monster emitted was actually nurturing these stone tablets. In other words, the stone tablets were derived from the smoke monster. This result shocked Li Xian greatly. He knew that these stone tablets were from the destroyer race, an existence that even the abyss feared. Moreover, the older the tombstones were, the more terrifying they were. Li Xian roughly counted and found that there were at least 1 million old man stone tablets here. So many terrifying destroyer race people instantly made Li Xian break out in cold sweat. He did not understand how he could appear here, in such a terrifying central area. He knew very well that this smoke monster must be very terrifying to be able to raise so many terrifying destroyers. It was very likely the legendary terror. Thus, Li Xian's expression was solemn as he silently looked at the smoke monster, wondering if it was an accident or if it was the smoke monster's doing. "Can you hear me?" A melodious bird-like voice suddenly sounded. The voice was very clear, like a clear spring flowing water, flowing in Li Xian's heart. "I can hear you." "Senior, what's the matter?" Li Xian asked seriously. "You can call me Ancestor." The bird-like voice sounded again and entered Li Xian's ears. "Ancestor." Li Xian was stunned, and his brows gradually furrowed. "Yes, Qin Yu is my descendant and you are Qin Yu's husband. You should call me Old Ancestor," the melodious voice continued. Old Ancestor. Li Xian believed that Qin Yu was his. Since the great terror in front of him was Qin Yu's old ancestor, he naturally had to have proper etiquette. Therefore, he bowed and saluted. "Good child." The crisp voice continued to sound, followed by a deep sigh. After a long time, the clear and crisp voice continued, "You definitely have many questions. Now, I will roughly explain it to you. I am the strongest guardian god race member in the god world. I am also the leader. I am the Phoenix guardian god that dominates the entire god world. That day, the strongest demon god from the abyss invaded the god world. I fought against it for several decades. The aftermath of the battle destroyed many universes and countless races. Even the god world suffered heavy injuries. But this wasn't the most terrifying part. The most terrifying part was that we had accidentally created a crack in the super universe, the crack behind me. Chaos power was outside the spatial crack. As long as chaos power rushed into the super universe, it would immediately bring trouble to the super universe, causing it to have problems. In order to repair the spatial crack, the super universe began to repair itself and restart itself. It used the God's domain world as the center and crazily absorbed all sorts of energy from all directions. Strange world, ancient god world, abyss, summoned beasts world, Tyrannosaurus world, raging flame overlord world, ocean monarch world. All the worlds that relied on the super universe to survive would turn into pure energy and be absorbed by the super universe, thus repairing the spatial rift. I didn't know how long it would take to repair it, but according to the energy of the spatial rift, the super universe would need to destroy at least 99.999% of the worlds to repair the damaged spatial rift. In other words, countless worlds would be destroyed, and even the abyss would face the risk of destruction. In order to survive, the abyss invaded the various worlds and absorbed the powers of the various worlds, supplying these energies to the super universe. That was why the abyss world had survived until now, but these energies were simply not enough. With the absorption of the super universe, even the abyss world would rapidly weaken. Don't think that repairing is a catastrophe. The real danger is the self-restarting of the super universe. This is the true catastrophe. At that time, the survival of the abyss and the ancient god world will be unknown. The clear voice of the Phoenix guardian god rang out from time to time, making Li Xian's heart jump. He couldn't help but ask. Is there no way to stop it? You must have thought of a way to get me here, right? That's right, the super universe restarted itself because it felt threatened. As long as the life forms in the universe were removed and the super universe didn't feel threatened, it wouldn't reboot and would instead repair itself. I've called you here to remove this threat, the Phoenix guardian god said faintly. Remove the threat? Who's the threat? Li Xian frowned and asked. It's me. The Phoenix guardian god's voice was filled with helplessness. After a moment of silence, she spoke again. I fought with the abyss demon god until the end. I realized the seriousness of the matter, and I also felt the repulsion and killing intent of the super large cosmos towards us. Under the repulsion of the super universe, the abyss demon god and I condensed into a fused body and are changing in an unknown direction. I didn't know what it would become, but it would definitely be a disaster for the living beings of the world because just the aura we gave off could give rise to the tombstones of the world extermination race. Moreover, the powerful destroyer race tombstones were something that even the abyss was unwilling to face. There were too many such tombstones, and even if the universe restarted, there wouldn't be any more humans. So I hope that you can kill me and the abyss demon god, absorb our power, and guard the spatial crack here until it's completely repaired. This. Why me? Li Xian asked in confusion. Chapter 469, Who is Li Xian? Because you're very special. You can fuse with all sorts of powers. You're very suitable to control our powers. Other than you, I can't find a second person. You don't know how many years I've waited for a successor. In order to find a successor, I even left 3 drops of blood essence to search for a successor. At that time, Qin Zhantian received 3 drops of blood essence. Due to his gender, he was unable to consume it. In the end, he gave it to Qin Yu. Unfortunately, she was too weak. She was simply unable to withstand my power. Later on, Qin Yu saved you in the God's domain world. At that time, I noticed you and discovered your uniqueness. You don't know how happy I am. I've finally found a successor. I'm constantly looking forward to your return to help this world. In the end, you came before me once again. Now, please help this world and control our power. If possible, absorb this power. After the Phoenix Guardian God's voice fell, she did not give Li Xian any time to react. She directly released the power that was like a mountain flood and tsunami. That power was too terrifying. It swept in all directions like rolling black clouds and directly turned the tombstones in all directions into ashes, turning them into nothingness. After doing all this, the mist monster that was the Phoenix Guardian God and the Abyss Demon God directly drilled into the space between Li Xian's eyebrows and completely disappeared. Ding! You have received the power of the Phoenix Guardian God who has a great will. This power has been judged to be friendly toward you. Beginning to absorb. Ding! You have received the power of the Abyss Demon God who has a great will. This power has been judged to be hostile towards you and has been judged to be a compromise. Beginning to absorb. As the mechanical voice sounded, a massive amount of power surged over and engulfed Li Xian's mind. His entire body was gradually enveloped by the black fog, his figure slowly transforming into the black fog. At this moment, the entire God's domain world began to move. A terrifying, calamity-like power swept out in all directions. What was even more terrifying was that a massive heavenly might slowly descend, locking onto Li Xian's body. The might was imposing, and it did not contain the slightest bit of emotion as it stared at Li Xian. That vast heavenly might was the subconscious of the super-universe. It did not have much intelligence and only operated mechanically according to its own way to remove any threats. At that moment, a terrifying power surged within Li Xian's body. Naturally, it was the greatest threat and the target that needed to be removed. At this moment, the super-large universe locked onto Li Xian and quietly focused on him. When Li Xian gradually turned into a black fog monster, the threat to this world became stronger and stronger. The world will finally move and began to eliminate Li Xian's existence and influence. Everyone who had contact with Li Xian, living things, everything that happened began to change. Even his contract with Qin Yu disappeared. This was not the main point. The main point was that even the traces of Li Xian's existence began to change, fade, and slowly disappear. Li Xian's fusion was heading in a strange direction. It was not a success, nor was it a failure. Instead, it was heading towards a forbidden path of self-sublimation. Similarly, this was not what the super-universes will wanted to see. Thus, the super-universes will started to influence him, remove him, and eliminate his existence? I'm sorry, the path you are looking forward to isn't what I want. I've found a path of sublimation. As long as I succeed, I'll become a taboo-like existence. I'll be able to control death, and I'll even be able to break away from the super-universe. I'll truly transcend. Li Xian muttered softly. He no longer transformed into the black fog monster. Instead, his body expanded intensely, evolving into a creature that might have to transcend taboo. However, under the constant influence and interference of the super-universe, Li Xian's eyes turned blood red. Endless killing intent enveloped the God's domain world, shocking the billions of living creatures until they trembled. In Qin Yu's world, Black Rock City, the city lord's residence. Qin Yu held a paintbrush as she silently drew Li Xian's portrait, sketching out Li Xian's handsome face. Song Xiaomei watched from the side, giving suggestions from time to time. As the two of them chatted, Li Xian's portrait took shape bit by bit. Suddenly, Qin Yu clutched her heart and stood up abruptly. A deep piercing pain rose from her heart. The contract is broken. My contract with Li Xian has disappeared, Qin Yu said in a panic. Li Xian? Who is Li Xian? Song Xiaomei looked at Qin Yu blankly, not understanding what she was saying. It's Li Xian, my husband. Xiaomei, don't you remember him? Qin Yu looked at Song Xiaomei in surprise. Your husband? Strange, I feel that my head is in a mess. I can't remember anything. What happened? My head hurts. Song Xiaomei held her head tightly. Her entire body was in a mess. She felt like her head was about to explode. What happened to you guys? He Niu in the distance saw the situation and quickly ran over to ask about it. At this time, He Niu saw Li Xian on the drawing paper and asked curiously. Who are you guys drawing? He's quite handsome, but it's a little blurry. You don't know him. Qin Yu looked at He Niu in disbelief, then at Song Xiaomei. She was shocked to find that they did not seem to be lying. She quickly lowered her head and looked at the painting that had just been completed. However, what shocked her was that the Li Xian in the painting had become much fainter. It was as if many years had passed, and it was a blurry old picture. The key was that Qin Yu realized that she felt a little unfamiliar with the Li Xian in the painting. This made Qin Yu's heart jump. She did not want to forget Li Xian. She anxiously took out a dagger and carved Li Xian's name on her fair palm. Fresh blood flowed down her palm. Qin Yu carefully wiped it clean and carefully looked at her palm. She looked at the name that had just been carved. However, the name that had just been carved actually became fainter. This once again made Qin Yu feel afraid. This was because she realized that she was even more unfamiliar with Li Xian. In fact, the Li Xian on the drawing paper was already indistinct. No, I can't forget Li Xian. I can't forget my husband. I want to remember him forever. Qin Yu's will penetrated deep into her soul. She mobilized the golden threads in her soul and used the threads to condense Li Xian's portrait, forcibly solidifying the golden threads. At this moment, Qin Yu discovered that her memories were becoming more and more blurry. She was becoming more and more unfamiliar with Li Xian, and everything had begun to change. However, in her soul, the golden threads that had solidified Li Xian became clearer and clearer. Qin Yu drew in her soul over and over again, not wanting to let herself forget Li Xian. However, her strength was too weak compared to the super universe. Her memories gradually disappeared, leaving only the obsession in her heart. She drew Li Xian's portrait in her soul over and over again. Just like that, time passed, and soon, 3 years had passed. The traces of Li Xian's existence in this world were almost gone. Everyone had forgotten about his existence. Even Ye Fan, who was the chosen one, had forgotten who Li Xian was. Only Qin Yu had a portrait of Li Xian in her soul. However, there was only the portrait left. His name and all the information had been forgotten. Through her obsession, she remembered that she was waiting for someone to return. On this day, the spatial rift in this world cracked, and the abyss finally began to invade. The densely packed abyss army invaded this world, and a catastrophe descended. Chapter 470, The End. Facing the powerful abyss world, the human race was simply unable to stop it. In the end, they were defeated in despair. He Niu died in battle, Song Xiaomei was buried in Black Rock City, Ye Fan was drowned in the abyss creatures, and his spear was broken. Qin Yu held her long saber and fought for 7 days and 7 nights. Under the setting sun, she looked at the horizon blankly. She remembered that she was waiting for someone to return, someone very important. Unfortunately, she could not remember. She only knew that that person was very, very important to her. Rumble. Hope City collapsed. The last piece of the pure land of the human race was destroyed, and all the lives of the entire world were buried here. Qin Yu also self-destructed in the afterglow of the setting sun, vanishing into thin air. Time continued to pass, and another few thousand years passed. The powerful abyss swept through all the worlds. Other than the ancient god world, no other world could stop the invasion of the abyss. The summoned beasts world, the Tyrannosaurus world, the raging flame overlord world, the ocean monarch world, Ada's world. One world after another was destroyed and absorbed, turning into pure energy that was absorbed by the abyss. Under such an attack, the abyss continued to expand. After 1,000 years, it finally destroyed all the worlds. Only the ancient God world and the God's domain world still existed. Another 1,000 years passed. The ancient God world collapsed. Under the invasion of the abyss, it vanished into nothingness. After defeating the ancient God world, the abyss also paid a heavy price, burying too many layers of the abyss world. The entire abyss only had 100,000 layers of worlds left. In order to continue living, the abyss invaded the God's domain world and began the final struggle. 1,000 years later, the low-level danger zone of God's domain world, the middle danger zone, and the high-level danger zone vanished into nothingness. Even the core danger zone vanished, leaving only the central region. The central region became the abyss's nightmare. Even after the abyss had sacrificed 9,999 worlds, it had still failed. Only the abyss's central region remained. On this day, the energy absorption of the super-universe finally stopped. The spatial rift's self-repair was finally completed, and the rift disappeared. It was also on this day that a thick life force spread throughout the super-universe, starting to give birth to new worlds. On the same day, a person woke up. His blood-red eyes swept across the entire super-world, and he even looked at the chaos outside the super-universe. This person's physique was at least 10,000 meters tall. His terrifying figure was like a mountain, giving off an extremely strong pressure. His speed was so fast that even the super-world trembled for a moment. This person was none other than Li Xian. He had shockingly become a transcendent existence like a forbidden master. In the blink of an eye, the world has changed. Li Xian's gaze was complicated. His blood-red eyes were focused on the location of the Qinyu world, and then on the abyss that still existed. Looking at the only abyss core that still existed in the super-universe, Li Xian revealed an ice-cold smile. Since there's only one core left, then there's no need for it to exist. Disperse. Li Xian's large hand slapped toward the abyss core world. During the process of the slap, the large hand transformed into an endless giant hand, bringing with it transcendental power as it ruthlessly slapped toward the incomparably large abyss world. Amidst the abyss will's trembling and despairing roars, the large hand descended with a bang. There were no explosions and no loud bangs. The abyss that had existed for countless years dissipated just like that. It could not even resist and directly transformed into the purest form of energy. This energy began to be absorbed by the super-universe. However, the vast majority of it was intercepted and absorbed by Li Xian. In the entire super-universe, no abyss would ever appear again. Next, it's time to defy the heavens and change fate, stirring up life and death. Divine light flashed in Li Xian's blood-red eyes. His huge right hand tapped on the void, and very quickly, a life imprint transformed from the super-universe and floated in the air. Li Xian carefully placed this life imprint on his palm and cast 10,000 divine lights to protect it in the center, not allowing her to be harmed in the slightest. Then, Li Xian continued to tap on the void, and another pile of life imprints appeared. Li Xian chose some familiar ones and cast 10 divine lights to protect them. The remaining imprints only used one divine light to protect them. After doing all this, Li Xian looked at the recovering super-universe and estimated the time when the major worlds were born. He stirred fate and set the time for the soul imprints to recover. Then, he fell into a deep sleep, ready to wait for that person's call. Time continued to pass, and soon, tens of millions of years passed. Various worlds appeared one after another, and all kinds of races and strange beasts were born in the worlds. The entire super-universe officially reached the moment of vigorous development. Many years passed again. In a world called the Divine Lands, the radiance of the life imprint flickered. Humans began to be born in this world, and they prospered. Many years later, a human dynasty was born. The name of the dynasty was the Qin dynasty. It was a small dynasty that fought against foreign races. In this world, the human race was weak and small. All the major races occupied the peak of the world. The endless foreign beasts became the great enemy of the human race. The human race could only hide in the huge Calabash Valley and struggle for their lives. This Calabash Valley was the holy land of the human race. There were 2 cities at the entrance of the Calabash Valley and at the middle area of the Calabash Valley. They were called the Hope City and Black Rock City respectively. They were also the first and second line of defense against the foreign beasts. On this day, Hope City was destroyed. The king of the Qin nation died in battle. The general died. The most elite troops of the human race were buried in the beast tide. Not even their bones remained. The mutated beasts charged into Black Rock City like a tide. Despair shrouded everyone's hearts. At this moment, the only member of the royal family of the Qin kingdom, the little princess of the Qin nation, Qin Yu, walked onto Black Rock City. She looked at the densely packed beast tide outside the city. Her little face turned pale. Princess Qin Yu, what should we do? Our remaining soldiers can't stop the beast tide at all. I'm afraid we're finished. Wearing a ponytail and a guard armor, a girl leading a big black bear went to Qin Yu and said worriedly. Her name was Song Xiaomei. She was a guard of the royal palace and also one of Qin Yu's subordinates. Behind her, there were some guards called Chu Wangkaiu, Ye Fan, Ade, Demon Tu, Zhang Yun. These people held their weapons tightly as they stood guard on the city wall, looking at the increasing beast tide outside the city with worry. The human elites had completely fallen. There were not many soldiers in Black Rock City, and most of them were old and weak. Even if they added in the Imperial Guards, they would not be able to stop the beast tide. Hence, at this moment, everyone looked outside the city with worry. They could not help but turn to look at Qin Yu. Don't worry, everyone. I have another idea. Qin Yu smiled slightly, trying her best to remain calm on her pale little face. Her heart was also filled with despair because she had no way to stop the beast tide. However, she had a little secret in her heart. Every time she encountered danger, there would always be some kind of power protecting her. That power was very terrifying, and it had the characteristics of destruction. Qin Yu had always been very wary of this power and did not dare to easily activate it. However, looking at the beast tide and the monsters that were like a wave of locusts, she knew that the only thing she could do was to rely on this power. Taking a deep breath, Qin Yu walked up to the city wall. In the midst of everyone's worry and despair, she raised her hands. I don't know who you are, but if you can hear my voice, please help me, okay? I am willing to sacrifice myself. I only hope that you can save my kingdom. Qin Yu's voice was clear and crisp. Her voice was not loud, but it was powerful. When the surrounding guards and soldiers heard her words, they looked at Qin Yu in confusion. They did not know what she was doing or why she would do such a thing. However, at this moment, just as everyone was puzzled, the sky suddenly split apart. Two huge arms tore the sky in half, revealing a terrifying figure that looked like a demonic god. This figure was extremely huge, and its huge head filled the sky. It looked down on all living things like a god. At this moment, the entire place was silent. Everyone's eyes were wide open, and the beast tide was paralyzed on the ground. They did not dare to move, and even the chirping of insects and birds disappeared. At the moment when everyone was shocked, the sky gradually darkened. The figure of a demonic god slowly approached and carefully looked at the petite little princess, Qin Yu, in Black Rock City. Qin Yu, I've waited for you for so long. The figure of a demonic god turned into a ray of light and arrived in front of Qin Yu. He turned into a handsome young man dressed in white. He excitedly hugged Qin Yu in his arms, unwilling to let her go. You. Qin Yu stared blankly at the handsome young man in front of her. When she thought of the portrait she saw in her soul, her large eyes immediately widened. I'm sorry for scaring you. Next, I'll help you retrieve all the memories of your previous life. Li Xian raised his index finger and gently tapped on Qin Yu's glabella. Instantly, a vast amount of memories flooded Qin Yu's mind and were gradually absorbed by her. After a long time, Qin Yu's entire body shook, and she looked at Li Xian with an incredulous gaze. Li Xian, it's really you. Sorry, I'm late, Li Xian said as he rubbed Qin Yu's hair. No, you're not late. I'm very happy. Really, as long as you're still alive. Qin Yu shook her head and said with tears of joy. Don't worry. From now on, no one can hurt you, even in this super universe. Li Xian's thoughts flickered, and the endless beast tide outside the city vanished into thin air in front of everyone's shocked gazes. Let's go. Let's go to the world I created. I'll help you have an endless lifespan and give you the power to control fate. I can even take you to a world outside the super universe. Li Xian held Qin Yu's small hand and said gently, not willing to let go of even the slightest bit. Can I bring Sister Xiaomei with me? I don't want to leave her behind. Qin Yu hurriedly looked at Song Xiaomei who was not far away. Of course. Not only her, but I'll also take everyone here with me. Let them stay in my world. Li Xian looked at Song Xiaomei and the big black bear who was following behind her. Then, he waved his hand and took them into his own world. He also took all the humans in the Gourd Valley into his own world. After everything was done, Li Xian held Qin Yu and walked in the air. They walked toward the sky under the seven-colored divine light, toward the world outside of the super universe. That was the real chaotic universe, and it was also an infinite world. In the chaotic universe, there were countless super universes. Even in the chaotic universe, Li Xian was the most troublesome existence. He was the truly transcendent, taboo existence. The end.